Hello, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to reviewing your theories. I want your theories. How are we all doing? Today with me, I have Gibby's Horror Homestead and T Dreads. Let me get up my little screen here. Oh, it worked! Yay! You guys wanna give us a little hello? See how we're doing?
What's up, Chad? It's your boy Gibby.
Yo, what is up, YouTube?
Perfect. All right, let me move
Yo,
you
what's up,
guys around a little
YouTube?
bit. Perfect. Hey, peanut butter sandwich, member for 2 months. Thank you so much. Congrats on 100K.
Peanut butter jelly time. Peanut butter jelly time.
That's an old reference. I feel like most of our audience is younger than that reference is.
I have the Nintendo DS. I know what it is.
A Nintendo. Oh my god, yeah. I was actually just talking to people about which DSs they had back in the day. Did you both had a DS?
I had the fat original one, and the hinge
Oh,
broke,
nice.
but it still worked.
Nice.
Yeah, same. I had
a.
I had both. I had the regular DS and I had the DSi.
Yeah,
I remember the day I traded in my Game Boy SP for a fat DS, and I dropped it in the parking lot on the way to the GameStop. And I was really
That's
upset, but it
tragic.
still worked. I'm like, the screen break did it turn out? No, it's all good.
Damn.
Nice.
Yeah, my
I also had a
hinge
Game
on
Boy
my
SP.
DS Lite, I think it was. So whichever the one that was before the camera. I didn't have the one with the camera, but I had that, and the little hinge broke on it on just one side, so it was just really loose. It would just like flop open and closed, but it worked. I think it's still downstairs somewhere.
Also, random fun fact, right?
Yeah.
No one in chat's can know this because they're like all 8 years old, but like Pokemon Emerald on the Game Boy Advance, I always had the Game Boy Advance SP, which is like the little square one. And I'd be walking around in Pokemon Emerald, and there was like these gamer archetype characters. And to me, it always looked like they were carrying like fucking bowls, like giant soup bowls. I'm like, why are they carrying fucking bowls? But they were actually carrying the original Game Boy Advance, which was bigger than someone's fucking head. So
All these gamers with their bowls. It's classic.
I know. So
But yeah, anyway, so today I thought it'd be fun to go through some of your guys' theories, have a look at them, discuss them, try and maybe do a bit of a speed run on them, just get through them as quickly as possible, see if we can solve the lore tonight with all of your guys' help. So I have linked in the chat at the pinned comment in the chat is the Google form which you can use. Don't worry, it's an official Google form. It's not some website I've set up to steal your data or anything. Some people were worried about in the chat. So if you want to click that, you can submit your username or whatever you'd like to be referred to on the stream, and then your theory as well. I have a good few already, so I'm not going to promise to get around to all of them, but I'm going to try my best to get through as many as we can. Gibby, I just saw your icon changed.
Yeah, so we were streaming with the dual processes and Fazent the other day, and their guys are both all like sitting down with their legs up. So I drew my little Gibbles with his legs
That's
up, but I figured
funny.
this one's more appropriate for this stream.
Gibby reads. Gibby reads? I don't know. All right. Let's go to our first one, which is from PB Sandwich, Peanut Butter Jelly Time, who is one of our Unwithered Truthers, one of our members. So here we are. Okay, I have one. I'll be as concise as I can. Not sure how many believe this, but here's my theory. FNAF 4's nighttime gameplay, so that would be the, playing in the bedroom, takes place after FNAF 3, in addition to being after FNAFs 1 and 2. Evidence comes from fun with Plush Trap. Plush Trap is very clearly inspired by Springtrap rather than Spring Bonnie. He's green and tattered rather than yellow and pristine. Mike has already brought back his memories from FNAF 1 and FNAF 2, and then his experiences during the daytime gameplay of 4. From FNAF 1, Bonnie attacks from the left, Chica from the right, Foxy has his own area, Freddy under the bed, needs to be looked at to stop him, and then there's also Ralph's message. For FNAF 2, you use the flashlight to ward off the nightmare animatronics, and they look more like the Withereds than the classics. Then from FNAF 3, you face a green and withered Spring Bonnie, one-on-one. Implies Mike has done this already. Mike brought back his memories from FNAF 3 as well. And then FNAF 4 showed both the earliest and latest parts of the timeline at the time of its release, the Big Bite in 83, and Mike's nightmares of his experiences from the previous 3 games. The only issue is evidence from sister location and Digiphobia that the nightmares are experiments. Maybe Mike just fell into them or discovered them post FNAF 3 when trying to destroy his father's evils, and they mixed with his experiences. Survival Logbook is 50-50 with evidence/counter evidence. Mike shows Nightmare Fredbear as one of his recent dreams, and the logbook seems to take place in modern times. But it could be written before. So yeah, that's the bulk of the theory, that the gameplay of FNAF 4 takes place after FNAF 3, or around the time of FNAF 3. How do we feel about this, gentlemen? I'll let one of you guys take the floor first, if you have any strong opinions.
Do you guys, when you think about FNAF 4 and the nighttime gameplay, I'm sure that we all agree that it's Mike. Whether or not it's his own memories or someone else's memories that he's reliving, it's sort of irrelevant. Do you guys view FNAF 4 as a single week in Mike's life where he had these 5 dreams? Or do you sort of see it as like, Mike has reoccurring dreams every night of his life, he's sort of dreaming the animatronics coming to get him?
I think with just
like, could he
game alone, I'd say I would be more persuaded by the night 1, night 2, night 3 all in the 1 week kind of thing. But with the survival logbook, I would be more inclined to believe that this is reoccurring dreams, which he's been having either since he was in the experiments, or that he's gained the memories of the experiments through remnant nonsense or something.
Yeah, like, I don't think that on Tuesdays Mike's nightmares are harder than they were on Mondays.
Jim, you don't know how it is out here, man. You understand how it is out
like,
here.
He could have easily dreamed Nightmare before FNAF 3, and so draws it in the logbook, and then also sort of continues on for an undetermined amount of time. It's like, for me, it sort of doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess with the evidence that they are experiments, right, in the sister location bunker, you have to look at them from the point of view of like, okay, did William make them look like that, or were they, as they are in Didophobia, just kind of like, you know, little mannequins on rails, and that you kind of project your own feeling onto them, like what you kind of see them as? Like, because Plushtrap then could have been a little, you know, doll that looked like Spring Bonnie, but it's in Michael's dreams that he's then later on projecting the idea of it looking like Springtrap rather than Spring Bonnie. So, like you said, it's not super important as to which exact date the nightmares occur as we see them, but I think there is good evidence to suggest that because it's Mike, that we were seeing the culmination of the whole series up to that point in that one game. So do you think Scott intended that at the time, that he was like, okay, if I put in all this like other stuff from the other games, people will think that it's Mike having the dreams and that he's been the night guard the whole time?
I really love thematically the idea that as the 4th FNAF game, it is sort of this capstone. Like what they said, you have the earliest point in the timeline and then the latest point. I totally think Scott intended for us to figure out that Foxy Bro is Mike Schmidt, is the protagonist of all the games. So yeah, I think that viewing Plushtrap as evidence that FNAF 3 takes place before FNAF 4 is better than it being a weird anachronism that we can't explain.
Yeah, I agree. I think as well, like with the logbook, where it's the recent dreams thing, if you line it up, then it doesn't work. You know what you were saying about it doesn't literally get harder every night, or it doesn't literally become different. You know, it doesn't match up 1-to-1, because I think it's like night 2 of the logbook that Mike draws Nightmare Fredbear, or Nightmare, whichever one he's drawing. So it could have been that this thing showed up when he went to Fazbear's Fright for the first time, and that Golden Freddy was somehow influencing him, or the memories of this place was influencing him, or it could just be that that's one thing he's been recently remembering. T-Dress, how do you kind of feel about the whole take?
I was barely paying attention, but I agree with the fact that I think Michael Afton has the dreams for a long time, and that's why he's so sad.
Perfect.
Like Mike from the movie,
yeah. By the way, guys,
and both. I mean both of them, honestly.
That's true. T-Dreads.
Hell, in Michael in the movie, they're self-induced on purpose.
That's very true.
Yeah, you ever see? Hold on, chat. Let me give them some context of how my condition is. You ever seen like My Hero Academia, and where All Might pulls up his shirt is that giant fucking like just crevice of death? That's what I got going on right now with my ribs. Okay.
Yeah, so T-Dreads is in recovery right now, so he is he's a little tired.
I'm a little stupid.
A little spent.
And they got me on perks.
They got him on perks again. God. He's on the perks. Well, okay. now that we have that update. I think that's a fairer response to that one. If anyone has any more thoughts or anything, share them in the comments. If there's great evidence for or against it, let us know. And
Someone
by
in
the way,
chat just asked if I had super cancer. What?
Whoa, no. Thankfully not. Thankfully not.
That's crazy.
T-perks.
By the way, if you guys, the form I was telling you about, you can submit your theories there. But if you, because there's so many that I've gotten submitted, if you have an issue with like not getting it read out, or you really, really want to get read out, you can always super chat and leave your theory in the super chat if you would like to. That's a better chance of me seeing it and reacting to it immediately. Then we have iBlue rendition IW4433 leaving another one of our Unwithered truthers. If William Afton is the final speaker and he promises to put the bite victim back together, does he ever achieve his goal? And what of the missing children who become manipulated into believing the yellow rabbit is their friend in Happiest Day? Doesn't really seem to line up with the motive of repairing CC. If Edwin and Afton's story is supposed to parallel each other, maybe William Afton did recreate him, but it became its own entity, a la Molten Freddy. Okay, so there's a few things in there. Do we think William succeeds in putting the bite victim back together?
No.
No, not William.
Yeah, I'm torn because it is, if you believe bite victim receiver, then there is an argument to be made that it is in the game where Springtrap is introduced that happens, and it might be tying the weird ghostly influence that Afton might have over the building to that event, or somehow that he's gotten his way through. I mean, we were talking about FNAF World on your stream recently, T-Dreads, and there's all the weirdness tying in with Afton and the final speaker, and if he is, did he influence FNAF World and all this kind of stuff. I don't know if he would have necessarily put Bite Victim back together in the way that he promises in that final message, because he also doesn't put Elizabeth back together. Michael does that for him. So I kind of always took that as there was a plan, or there was a method that he maybe had in mind but didn't have the chance to execute before Follow Me occurs and he gets spring-locked.
Yeah.
And then the missing children who become manipulated into believing the yellow rabbit is their friend in Happiest Day. That's from the movies and from the books. I don't know if we have much to suggest that's the case in the games, though. I don't know. Am I missing something from the games?
I would be neutral on that happening in the games, just because we don't see it either way. But I think a lack of seeing it in something like UCN voice lines, to me, shows that it was sort of not part of Scott's story.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that...
Andrew is in the game.
Yeah, I think the whole yellow rabbit stuff is difficult, because that seemed to be a concept that was introduced later on, and then I don't know if there's any evidence, especially because he gets spring locked by the kids, and there's no moment like in the movie where they suddenly wake up and they realize what's going on. It's like they kind of are just in the room with him. So I mean, you could argue that was an accident, but we have evidence to suggest that maybe it was caused by something, potentially one of the kids or Cassidy or something.
Yeah, like I'd think that there would be a line in UCN where Bonnie would be like, "We trusted him, but now we don't," right? Like, and we don't get something like that.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Then we have, if Edwin's and Afton's stories are supposed to parallel each other, which we can talk about a bit more, maybe William Afton did recreate him, but it became its own entity, a la Molten Freddy. I like the idea of Molten Freddy if Happiest Day in FNAF 3 was unsuccessful, like the idea of like the unhappiest day or the failed Happiest Day, that Molten Freddy is sort of the FNAF 6 version of that if you bring all the kids together. But we don't, like one big happy family. I just don't know if we have much to suggest that Bite Victim is present in that. We do have an interesting thing that in Ennard, it's a birthday clown, like wearing the little birthday hat. So there's kind of that birthday imagery, but then Elizabeth's mixed in there as well, and it loses that once she leaves. It's interesting. Thank you very much for the super chats, by the way. I will get to those in just 2 seconds. If Edwin and Afton's story are supposed to parallel each other, I don't know if I would necessarily agree. I think Edwin's story is more of a parallel to Henry from the books rather than Afton's. I don't know. Do you think Edwin has many Afton parallels?
His kid dying and becoming this weird like entity thing is obviously very Golden Freddy. But it's also it's Golden Freddy, it's Charlie. Have you read Felix the Shark?
I have not.
Okay. I think my
By the way,
interpretation.
fucking insane story. By the way,
Love it, love it, love it. My interpretation of why the 3 stories in Felix the Shark were canceled is because they touch on things that
they suck.
Scott wouldn't want. So far, 2 of them are like some of my favorite stories in the franchise. They touch on things that Scott wouldn't
Felix the
want
Shark
using
is
the lore.
never mind.
Felix the Shark is great. It's about this guy who
dude,
owns a Freddy's restaurant, and his son accidentally dies while on vacation, and so he builds an animatronic in his memory, and then is like, even though I am going out of business, nobody who buys this land can ever get rid of the animatronic. It's like, okay, this seems to parallel Henry, Edwin, William. Like, it seems like this weird amalgamation, parallel of all the other characters. And so for him to be, he almost feels like a proto-Edwin as opposed to a parallel of William or Henry. And so I do think kind of what T-Dread streams are always about, which are like, Scott reuses ideas and then sort of finalizes his draft of what he wants to do in the games. And so I totally see this Felix the Shark character being like a proto-Edwin. You can see the gears turning in Scott's brain, being like, guy loses wife and child and builds robot suit for them because Frankenstein. Like you can see it in Scott's writing all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I think, I'd agree that there are elements of Edwin's and Afton's stories which overlap, and then of Edwin's story which appears before his character was introduced. I don't necessarily know if they would parallel one another. I'd say there are elements of them that cross over, but I wouldn't necessarily call him like a direct, we're supposed to learn something about Afton from learning about Edwin.
Okay, let's do T-Dread's favorite thing. Okay, let's talk about Star Wars for a second, right? So we have the stories of Luke and Anakin that parallel one another. They're born on the desert planet, and then they're really good pilots, and they get inducted into the Jedi, and they get their arm cut off by a Sith Lord, right? So their stories are very, very similar. You cannot use those parallels to then extrapolate that Luke's story will continue in the same direction as Anakin's. In fact, the fact that they're so similar in the beginning and then diverge so much at the end is the point of the story. And so to say, well, Edwin and William have similar beginnings, therefore we can predict Edwin's future, I think is not a good sort of base for theorizing.
That's fair. Yeah, I think if they were more closely tied, and also we don't know enough about Afton's beginnings, we can kind of guess certain things, here or there, but it's also the fact that they're 2 characters which interact so often. And I know that, like, obviously in your Luke Anakin, example, it doesn't matter that they interact with one another, but I suppose, like, having William and Afton being in the same story together, interacting with one another, while also supposed to be, like, kind of the same character in different points. Like, yes, you can have that happening in a story, but it doesn't feel that direct that we're supposed to be, juxtaposing them against each other necessarily. But I think, with the whole back together Ennard thing, I think there is something interesting there. And I would say William probably didn't put Bite Victim back together, but he was working on it more actively than it might seem on the surface. Because I think personally that's what all the like experiments were in the Sister Location bunker. They were part of that whole plan. iShrine for $2 as a super chat. Thank you very much. Candy Cadet pizza deal story was from Afton to Edwin. That's let me get up the Candy Cadet stories. I know that's kind of like a fun one. Pizza, no. Let me see. Pizza. Man, people are so not interested in the story. It's not even on like the wiki or anything. Let me see.
There was a family who wanted pizza and didn't take care of the deal, and they all died. That's the one we're talking about?
Yes, that one. Personally, I've always seen that as like
As a
the
joke.
tutorial joke one, you know? Like just kind of introducing the idea that he will tell these stories directly from him to Edwin is quite a fun idea. I mean, if you believe he built Candy Cadet, I could see that. And I mean, well, we do actually have now that Candy Cadet was an MCM invention. So if anything, it would be like Edwin telling a story about himself. But again, I feel like it's more of a fun joke when this might have been a fun joke comment anyway. But thank you very much for the super chat. Yanverb, sorry for leaving a theory after the stream has started. Is there a chance that you'll still review it? I left it under the post for members. Yes, I should be able to have a look. Let me see. Let me refresh this. Yes, I do. Okay. So, Yanverb 7673. Okay, so I am a firm Mike UCN. Michael Afton is the one tormented. Oh, okay, so Mike Hell. Oh. Mike Afton is the one tormented UCN supporter. So here goes my attempt to explain this theory. Everything that could be seen in the game is something that was seen by Michael or the CC, his tormentor. For example, William wouldn't know how the Nightmare animatronics looked, even if he intentionally tormented Mike and or CC. Interesting. So I get the idea of Mike being the one to have seen most of the stuff in the game, though I would argue that if William is the one... So, okay, so then you have lines, if we're going to specifically shout out the nightmares, for example, it's like, I am given flesh, or I am recreated, but not by you, by the one you shouldn't have killed. But not by you, to me, is like, you made me initially, but I'm not. It's not you anymore. It's the one you shouldn't have killed that's brought me to life. Or
I am a fearful reflection of what you have created.
Yeah, I don't.
I am a fearful Sigma.
I
I am a skibbity Sigma.
literally, Gibby. Yes.
I don't necessarily see them as. A lot of the lines I don't think line up with what Mike would be experiencing. I understand the idea. If the bite victim is the one you shouldn't have killed, which I've kind of talked myself into believing, then Mike being the one being tortured makes sense. But it's also... there's just other questions around the other characters and the way they speak to him. You know, we know who our friends are. You are not one of them. That's kind of, again, that's directed toward William, or at least toward the final speaker, you know, or it's referencing that. I am your wickedness made of flesh. You can argue with Nightmare, if that's the case, that Mike is the experiment victim, so that he would be the one generating Nightmare. So it's like, oh, because he represents Fredbear and what Michael did, then you could kind of make an argument for that. I'm trying to see it. I don't know. Do you guys have any extra thoughts on Mike Hell, positive or negative?
I think most people do not believe it, because you can sort of, even if there's no smoking gun, there's so many things you can intuit from those voice lines that seem like they're definitely directed at William. And then there's also just the fact that if the finale is supposed to be like bite victim getting revenge on his brother for what he did when he was 14, that kind of makes the bite victim look bad. And also Mike doesn't deserve it.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot of like filling in the blanks between series that we can interpret, but Michael does seem to, at least in Sister Location, go on some sort of redemption arc and seems to be going against William, at least by the time of FFPS. And so, yeah, to have the finale of the series be this wrap up between the two of them, I would then question stuff like Toy Chica the high school years. What's that in there for? Why is it this kind of overall thing against Michael? What's the idea of the slowed down speech in Old Man Consequences Lake, where it's like somebody screaming like Michael, Michael, you know, that whole thing. Exactly. I get, because there was times when I did consider it. I think it's just overall, yeah, more of a thematic thing with the end of the series. It would be a kind of a closed a bookending situation, but I think actually Janver replied there with another super chat, made by you, meaning you imagined me. So yeah, if you don't believe necessarily that they're experiments, I am remade, but not by you. So Mike had the dream. He created Nightmare Freddy in his head. That would make sense. And then, in fairness, the puppets line, I don't hate you, but you need to stay out of my way. I recognize you, but I'm not afraid of you, not anymore. I mean, that would seem more William. But there is a weird...
She could have been...
Go ahead.
In like FNAF 2, when she tries to kill him, like, oh, I thought you were something else. I was afraid of you, but not anymore.
Yes. Yeah. The whole Mike is Fritz thing is also something that I'm kind of ropey on myself. So that being part of the evidence, or even of like when people say that about the FNAF 3 guard, that it has to be Mike because he saw phantoms of the FNAF 2 robots and only Mike would have seen them. That to me is a little bit ropey as well, because I'm not 100% sure that Mike, when he was like 17 or whatever, went to work at FNAF 2. I'm open to it, but I'm also not super convinced. Like, I'm not 100% certain on that idea. But it's something to think about, I guess, because there are obviously these very well-held beliefs in the community, which we kind of just nail down and then don't look at ever again. And it's not till years later when somebody's like, hey, what about this idea? So appreciate the thought. I don't know if I necessarily buy it myself, but there is some evidence within the game to have it make sense. And it's also referring to Mike as a demon, which I don't love, but maybe.
Yeah, how dare he?
Not a theory, but a question. Thank you, Marianne, by the way. Is the logbook actually haunted by the two spirits? And if so, how and when did they get in there? Why do they need an external object just to talk to each other? So, how do we feel about the logbook, fellas?
All right, I got two answers.
Okay.
I like one of them more than the other, but that doesn't mean it's more likely to be true. It's possible, and I don't like this idea, but it's possible that the logbook is just sort of this meta thing that Scott made for us, the real people, and we're not supposed to take everything in it as actually being in universe, and it's just his way of delivering part of the story. I don't like that, but I'm not a mind reader, so I don't know if that's something Scott would do. The other, and I hope more likely answer, is that I don't think the logbook is haunted. I don't think there's a remnant in the logbook. I think the logbook can be altered the way that posters on the wall can be altered. Yeah. That's just an ability that the spirits are seen to have.
Altered?
And that's it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I don't think...
God book,
yeah. That's just
Bible
the
theory. No.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the book itself is not haunted. Like, you can't, you wouldn't be able to put the book into a furnace and make remnant out of it or whatever. But I think that the spirits being in that location or communicating in that way is just showing us through the book. Like, maybe in universe, if Mike's looking at it, well, I guess Mike probably would have to do it because he does sometimes interact with the faded text. But their interaction is more in the locality, and it's altering, like you said, Gibby, the posters on the wall. It's altering the book itself. There's some interesting stuff with that book. From that more meta perspective, I looked at the logbook for a long time as a sort of in slash out of universe representation of Happiest Day in FNAF 3, and which is why the book is set in FNAF 3 or around FNAF 3, is that we're kind of seeing what Happiest Day actually looked like. You know, it wasn't Mike punching wall tiles in. It was more of a conversation or a way of leading him to the answer of his true name, which is obviously Dave or Cassidy or David or Evan or maybe the answer wasn't super clear, but that I think it's visualizing Happiest Day in the new context of post 6. So you could argue maybe it's a case of, if Cassidy is the one you shouldn't have killed, where did Bite Victim go? I thought Happiest Day maybe, because Scott said the answer is complex, it's not clear which ending of Happiest Day occurred, so maybe it's a case of only Bite Victim got his Happiest Day and moved on, and the rest of them stuck behind in the fun times, in a post sister location FFPS world. So I kind of look at it that way. TJs, do you have any particular thought on the two spirits in the logbook, or if there is two spirits, or more than two, or less than two?
I think there's two. Yeah, it is weird because you'd assume they just talk like within Mike's head, but I think Scott needs some way to depict that in a way that we could understand it. And so he's like, well, Mike has this book, and now that Mike has the book, they're in the book too.
Perfect. Happiest Day wasn't wall tiles, it was video games. That is true, Pickle
Walton
Pepper.
Files?
But it wasn't Walton Files. It was video games. Yeah, that's some arcade theory. I mean more so, the way we access those games is quite esoteric and weird. So in universe, I don't think Mike was literally punching in the hex code for purple backwards on the wall tile. Maybe he was interacting with his logbook or something similar. But yeah, I think that's a fair response. Let me see. Oh, Janverb left another thing. I address every point of criticism you made in my comment. I only saw a little bit of the comment. Maybe you left a reply. I'll have another look, Janverb, but I only could see. Okay, you edited it with longer stuff. Okay, I will come back to that in a little bit. But for now, let's move on to our first Google Sheet response.
Yes.
All these have been comments and super chats. So, Joris, or uncanny.mp4, says, kind of a weird one, but what if the couch person is Elizabeth? That way, we've seen all the Afton siblings watch TV at some point during the games. Mike in Sister Location, Dave in FNAF 4, and Elizabeth in FNAF 6. This could be a way to explain the FNAF World ending, where a person is watching a flashing TV screen, Mike with his younger brother and sister at his side, doing the thing they all enjoyed while being alive, together at last as a family. I like it, but I don't know if I believe it. Let me get up the...
I'm right with you.
I can't believe dual process theory made an alias. Just a mere theory.
That kind of thinking, like, oh my god, like, let's juxtapose the TVs in the series. There's 3 of them. We have two of them are Aftons. Let's look at the third one. That way of thinking is incredible, and we need more people who think like that. My sort of gut reaction is just, Elizabeth died very young, and for her to kind of talk back to her father, I don't think is likely.
I guess the argument could be made with Midnight Motorist that the couch person doesn't necessarily say anything aggressive. Well, leave him alone tonight is a pretty direct statement. He had a rough day. And I suppose if you put that, you can put that in so many different tones. That's the other thing, is because we don't have a voice to go with it. You can kind of have it be... What do you mean?
Imagining Elizabeth, the Elizabeth voice actress going, "We are still here. Daddy, I want to go play with..." Imagining that voice saying, "He had a rough day today."
Yeah, that's true.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, leave him alone tonight. He had a rough day. It's very direct. It's very flat. It's very kind of... You don't get much out of it. Again, I like the idea. It's just the dialogue itself feels a little bit... Yeah, a little bit straightforward for, 6-year-old Elizabeth or whatever. It would answer my query about Midnight Motorist, that if it's not Michael in the chair, why have him there at all? But yeah, Teeters, do you have any particular thoughts on the Elizabeth chair?
No thanks.
Elizabeth is obedient. The whole point of her character is that by her breaking the streak of obedience is what kills her. I would argue that we don't know enough about Elizabeth to say that she is always obedient, because she could always be breaking the rules. Like, we don't necessarily know that her going against the grain is that one occurrence that leads to her death. You know, she could be a more bratty child, or she could be more, you know, if she's trying to play on William's, if the idea that William likes her more than the others, which I don't necessarily buy, but if we're playing on that idea, her speaking to William and being the one that might get through to him to leave him alone, to leave Mike, you know, stop abusing Mike, then that could kind of work. I do like the tying in of all three of them watching the TV then in different times. Dave watches TV in the most loose way of, there's an interactable item in one mini game where you can have the TV turn on, but it is interesting. I think the evidence, it just comes up against the leave him alone tonight, he had a rough day. Otherwise, it was just there was a person watching TV, I'd be totally for it. But I hope I'm proven wrong, because I would like a more straightforward answer on that.
I like it. Did you see the $10 super chat?
I just
From
have a check.
Yeah, Gilded Data.
Gilded Data, thank you very much. One theory I had for what was in the box was FNAF itself. With how FNAF 4 was meant to be the ending of the series, the idea of the franchise being put in a single box to be forgotten as time went on. Some things are best left forgotten for now.
Yes, and you know, the tragedy of this place will be forgotten, right? Like, linking up the Forgottens in the series. Henry says that at the end of 6. I love that.
Yeah, that's really nice. I like that. I think Scott's, when he spoke about it on Dawko's stream, and he kind of said it was like a loose thread that he left, you know, off in one direction that he could have gone in. Something as metaphorical as like it's the representation of the series may not have been the case when he made it, but I do like that idea of it then becoming representative of the series. And in fairness, around the time that the game came out, when no one figured it out, he spoke specifically about the box and how it would remain sealed, and how some things are best left forgotten forever, which was what he said about, you know, the whole mystery of FNAF 4. So I do like that. I like that, you know, he said it was fitting that nobody could figure out FNAF 4, and so it's fitting for the box to stay closed, that the series itself went unsolved. I really like that. Good stuff. Aiden the First. Vengeful phone guy is undeniably canon. Have you guys seen this video? Was it Flipside?
No, is that
today? I
did not.
Let me see. I literally just watched it earlier today.
Evil Ralph?
Yeah, it was Flipside. Phone guy's the vengeful spirit. It was a fun video. He clarified that he didn't actually believe that 100%, but it was it was a fun video. You know, he went through a lot of the evidence, especially based on the week before and how he dies and how he might be. He goes a similar direction as people who think Bite Victim is the one you shouldn't have killed, because why would Phone Guy be the one William shouldn't have killed if William didn't kill him? But his idea was based on the week before showing at the end that he can still like think and talk, and he can like smell his own body and stuff. So he was like, maybe he's not dead, but Dave from maintenance is William, and their whole thing is covering up murders. So he comes in and spring locks him, and that's what the fading out cutscene is that Ralph is Golden Freddy, or he becomes one of the spirits in Golden Freddy.
All right, hold on. I gotta deafen for a sec.
Cool. Just Peter, you don't mind if you read my theory on why FNAF 4 was the ending? I just want to see some viewers' opinions. Sure thing, Just Peter. I assume you have your response in here. Oh boy, that's a lot of. I'm gonna open up a spreadsheet of this so I can find it. Let me see.
How many responses do you have?
120.
Nice. But only 100 likes. What are you guys doing?
Guys, come on. 257 concurrent viewers. Come on. Okay, here we go. So, I think FNAF 4 was supposed to be the end, and here is why. Let me see, I'm going to expand this out. Ooh, there's a big long
Because Scott
string of
overtly
things.
said it out loud multiple times.
In the ending of FNAF 4, sorry, I think Five Nights at Freddy's 4 was actually supposed to end on a 4th, and here's why. In the ending of FNAF 4, we learned that the crying child, Evan Afton, not going with Dave because it doesn't fit in the name. What? What doesn't fit in the name? Was in the hospital, but unfortunately he passed away, and the only reason why the box is not opened at the end of the game is because all the nightmares are sealed in the box, and no one will open it to unleash the nightmares, so it doesn't pass through Michael Afton, because it wouldn't make sense why Michael wasn't the main character, because there were pills and other hospital stuff, and I can't remember the names. But also in FNAF 4, we learn why William only killed children because his son is dead, and I know why some people won't like this because I'm making this theory sound like William is the good guy, but I'm not trying to, because I do think William is the bad guy and he doesn't have a good heart. So I don't have enough evidence to bring up why he started killing children. So in my opinion, I think FNAF 4 was supposed to show the ending of the franchise, considering that ScottGame.com made 2 thank you for playing posts, with the one that has a hidden question mark, except the Phantoms and Shadows. If it wasn't for the question mark that Scott put in that post, I think there would have been a real reason to why Five Nights at Freddy's 4 is the ending. Yeah, so the first post about FNAF 4 was called The Final Chapter. So at some point, Scott was considering 4 as the ending. Yeah, it's interesting to link William's murder spree with the fact that, like, he's killing children as, like, a way of revenge, I suppose, on the world for his son having died, which is closer to something like a will care, but you're clarifying that you don't think William is doing that. Do you think, Gibby, at the time of 4, before we had like Remnant and Experiments and all that kind of stuff, do you think that's like a satisfying explanation?
Well, we know that based on the timeline of the Silver Eyes, I think that the Silver Eyes was done before even FNAF 3. So
Yeah.
I do think that Remnant already existed in Scott's head.
Sure.
I also think that Scott ending the series, he called the first 3 FNAF games a trilogy. And I think to him, FNAF 4 was the cap of the series. And then he was going to do something like Sister Location, but maybe without Purple Guy. Like, maybe something else is going on, it's a different company, it's still the same sort of universe, but an unconnected story. And then FNAF 4 happened, and no one got the story, and people didn't like it, and he's like, you know what? Let's continue the story.
Yeah.
I don't ever think that the last video game named Five Nights at Freddy's was ever supposed to be FNAF 4.
Right, okay. So you think there was always a plan to keep going after that?
Yes, it's like how George Lucas lied about not having episode 7, 8, and 9 for decades.
Yes, yeah. Well, as he brings up in his post, there's a question mark after the end post on Scott Games. So even at least by the time of the end of the game coming out, like after it had released, he knew, okay, there's probably going to be something else, whether that's a spin-off or a sequel or whatever. I mean, I know a lot of people at the time thought that Sister Location was just a spin-off and not actually based in the original timeline, which turned out not to be true. But I could see that like argument being made based purely on what's in that game. But then you have stuff like the secret room, and that's got the Fredbear plush in it and the Nightmare Experiments, so it kind of falls apart. But on the surface of it, you could go, oh, it's like a new take on the series. Fluffy Pretzels. Would you be okay reading my theory about the culprit of the Bite of 87? I'm new to FNAF and only played 4 games, just trying to take it one step at a time. Sure thing, Fluffy Pretzels. That's cool that you're going game by game. That's something that a lot of people don't do. A lot of people just gotta jump in and they get lore from Secret of the Mimic, and they get lore from FNAF 2, and then they get lore from everywhere. So it's cool that you're going through and actually playing each of the games. My theory is that Toy Bonnie committed the Bite of 87. My main point of evidence are the rare death screens, including Withered Freddy, Withered Foxy, or Toy Bonnie. Both Withered Freddy and Withered Foxy are tied to murders in the After Death minigames. Withered Foxy walked in on the MCI. Withered Freddy was feeding the kids as Charlie died outside. So it's not much of a stretch to say that Toy Bonnie had something to do with the 87 bite. That's interesting. I think, the 3 of those being the ones highlighted. Do you think it's just like a Scott thought they were creepiest, so he put those in? Or do you think there is I know there's what's it called, Flash Theory? That's the Withered Circle, and those guys have been working on that. I just yeah, I know it's a funny
What
name.
theory?
It's, I think, the idea that in those rare screens you can hear the sound of the flashlight failing, and their theory was that Withered Foxy did the bite of 87 because the flashlight failed against him, basically. So with Toy Bonnie, how do you feel about Toy Bonnie doing the bite of 87?
What was the evidence that Withered Bonnie did what?
So on there's 3 rare death screens in FNAF 2 where it's just the animatronics with no eyes. One of them's Withered Freddy, one of them's Withered Foxy, and one of them's Toy Bonnie. And Withered Freddy and Withered Foxy have mini games which tie them to deaths. So Withered Foxy walking in on the MCI and Foxy go go go, and then presumably Unwithered Freddy or a Freddy feeding all the kids cake in Save Him. So he's arguing that Toy Bonnie having his own screen, it's like we don't know what he's linked to, and what's the only other thing in the game you could link it to is the bite of 87. So that's kind of his thinking. Or their thinking, actually, I shouldn't assume.
I guess I don't fully see the... Like, okay, it's not a smoking gun to me. It might be, evidence point in that direction, but I think there's also a lot of evidence points in lots of different directions. I do think it was the toys, though, because I don't think the toys would have been scrapped if one of them was not the cause.
I thought that way right up until the week before, and I know you don't think the week before...
non-canon before?
The non-canon before. I always thought it only made sense for one of the toys to do it, especially Mangle, considering how they're set up in that game. But there is some Withered Foxy evidence as well. Toy Bonnie, to me, there hasn't been anything after this, and I know you said you only played the first 4 games, so, as it goes on, there's some more that link it to other characters and some of the books and stuff. Toy Bonnie would be an odd choice, but it is interesting that he's the only other character given one of those kind of rare death screens. So
he's
yeah,
also
like
Shadow,
you said, I think
Shadow Bonnie.
He is Shadow Bonnie, that's true. So you could take it as that kind of like tying it to the save them minigames. He is also the one that's like closest to one of the dead bodies on the stage in Save Them. But yeah, I think, like Gibby said, it's a supporting evidence. If you can find more in the other games to support it, then you can use that as a point. But I don't think it's necessarily the smoking gun on the theory. But thank you very much for submitting anyway, and good for you for going through the series. And let me see. So then we have Ephemeral Sean. Thank you very much for your super chat. Abakayax Gomez 4416 theorized that Afton is not the villain this time around, but F10. James Misery wrote F10 equals 4F10N as an anagram on T-Dread's recent video. Thoughts? Afton foreshadowing? This has been a fun one in our kind of circles of discussion, is the whole F10, AF10 sounding name. I quite like it as a bit of fun. It could be evidence that whatever Fiona is could someday become Glitch Trap. I think that you could make that argument, that it could be a little bit of, foreshadowing in that sense.
I think when Scott figured out that the name Fiona could be called F10 and that F10 sounded like Afton was the happiest day of his life. I do not think
that.
I don't think that it's literally William. I think it's just like the new villain of this era is supposed to remind you of William, and it's Fiona.
Interesting. Yeah, so it's more of a thematic tie than a literal one.
Definitely not a literal one.
Yeah, okay, cool. Nice one. Alex Lloyd. Let me see. Forgot to write the evidence, but can you check mine? I assume that's just the only Alex that's submitted to the board, so I'm just gonna have a look here. That doesn't look like a theory. It's more of an opinion. I feel like there's no need for all the new games. It should have ended at 6. I don't know if there's evidence for that, so if it's not... Alex, if you just at me in the chat, if that is your post, or if it's somebody else's, or just let me know what username you left it under, because I've got a big Google Sheets filled with all this stuff. Axel, sorry, I'm an idiot. I am a fool. Ah, there it is. There it is. The Tales from the Pizza story, Animatronic Apocalypse, is about an animatronic with the mimic AI, and that story implies that people can be infected by Glitchtrap without using a VR headset, since the character in the story start to go along with the game even when they weren't where it originally took place. That means the Afton cult theory isn't too far off. So I'm not super familiar with the animatronic apocalypse story beyond the kind of like the meme status of that story for a lot of people. Pickle Pepper, thank you very much. F10N4 is also Elite Speak anagram of 4F10N. Yes, so again, Afton. The only issue I have with the anagram thing is that that's not how you use Elite Speak. Like Elite Speak, I think
it's off by a letter.
Is T, right? You know?
Yeah.
But it does still work. But yeah, Axel. So animatronic apocalypse. Again, we're looking at Tales from the Pizzaplex, which is now confirmed to be non-canon or not in continuity with the games. It is interesting that the glitch trap can be like spread amongst people without any sort of VR link. We have yet to see something like that in the games. I don't know if there's anything I'm missing maybe from the games without somebody at least interacting with some sort of technology that they can become infested.
I mean, the only people I think we've even seen infected are Gregory and Vanessa.
Yeah, and potentially Cassie now that she has that chip. I guess there's an argument for Jeremy. Yeah, it's interesting. If people have thoughts on that in the comments, leave more. It's just I'm not super familiar with the story, so I can't confirm or deny the mimic AI stuff in that story. I just know it is about a bunch of people that kind of go mass crazy and start doing a bunch of stuff based on animatronics and stories. So if that is leading into the idea of this like Afton cult theory, it might be less like the actual mechanics of that happening in the games, but more so foreshadowing that happening in the games in a different method. Let me see. Crashmaster, sorry, but Glitchtrap is M2 and it makes perfect sense. If it's M1, F10, I will eat my helmet because people are missing the obvious agony endo. There's a lot of debate on what Glitchtrap is. If he's M2, if he's F10, if he's M3 or something like that. The only reason I kind of suggested that it might be F10 rather than M2 is because the M2 seems to be what ends up, or what I would imagine is what ends up in the basement because of, you know, the fact that it's the mimic and that the whole thing is like the secret of the mimic, and then we find out, you know, about David being the one in M2 and all this kind of stuff, and we have an animatronic that goes missing, and then there's one years later that's all broken up and, you know, bent out of shape. So I'd imagine that would be likely to be David, the one in the basement in ruin. But the only reason I suggest it might be M1 or F10 is that Afton, if Fazberger is correct and he can, you know, go into the if he can go into the sister location, or what will become the sister location bunker, he would come across F10. So if he started experimenting on it or working with it or working against it or something, there is like a pathway that he could reasonably become entangled in that system. But yeah, the endo itself being, you know, possessed with agony, although we don't have a physical form of Glitchtrap, to be fair, unless you believe Burntrap is Glitchtrap or is real or whatever. Do you have any thoughts on Glitchtrap as M2 versus M1?
I think that there are some things that are intentionally left vague at the end of Secret of the Mimic, and that's one of them. So we can like predict, but I think that when they're writing ongoing stories, there's almost intentional misdirections. And so I wouldn't be confident predicting either one.
That's fair. Yeah, because we could just find out there's another secret third endo, or there's another secret third mimic.
Which is what Riotos believes.
Mm-hmm. So, Thallium, thank you very much for the super chat. Just quickly, Crashmaster has another response. Thank you for the super chat. The Origin teaser, the Zero Org teaser, shows the mimic's head, and that gets scanned, with the body later repurposed for Ruin, based on something like Tales epilogues. That's the like old picture of the animatronic head that's just in the files for Help Wanted. That is fair.
The real Chuck E. Cheese one.
Yeah, so that's a real photograph, right, of an actual robot from real life.
Yes. Yes.
that's why it's kind of a weird thing for me, in terms of like tying it directly into universe, like, oh, that is literally the robot. But there is also arguments to be made, like the I think the emails in FNAF AR mention like making it's difficult to pry the suit off of whatever they're going to scan, or there's like some casing on it that's really difficult to get off and they need power tools or something. So I think that also would be an argument to be made, that it's an endoskeleton circuit board. But then I'd also say, like, oh, well, maybe it's scrap trap, you know? Like, after he's been burned in a fire, he's really hard to pry apart. But I will, yeah, that's a fair piece of evidence. Now, let me see. Thallium. I think the truck and Help Wanted Curse of Dreadbear DLC, which is also under the Pizzaplex by FNAF 6, could be Fiona's. I also think this shows the Fall Fest was at that lake by MCM and Secret of the Mimic, and that lake's water is where the Red Lake Waterfall Mushroom area under the Pizzaplex is from. The only issue with the Fall Fest being at the lake, which is right beside MCM, is that Fiona seems to have to go away for a few weeks to go to Fall Fest, which is kind of weird regardless, unless MCM is really far out and away from everything else, which it definitely could be. It being her truck under the Pizzaplex, I mean, it has the purple headlights, so I don't know if it's necessary. I don't know about her truck. It could be. Again, we don't have much to say it is or is not. But I do like the idea that the Red Lake Waterfall Mushroom area under the Pizzaplex is either coming from, like, is being sourced from that lake, or is underneath it, or is like a representation of it or something like that. Do you have any thoughts on that whole, like, weird mushroom underwater area in
Ruin?
Ruin, yeah. It's very Silver Eyes.
Yeah, I like John's thing has always been like, it reminds me of the books. I fear that Scott might be going for like the this particular lake, whether it was Fall Fest or it's like Old Man Consequences or whatever. Like, there's agony in the water, and so it's underground and it flows from the lake, and someone drowned in there, and it's where, you know, if you're in the real world, that's where, like, Old Man Consequences, like, ghost lingers, and the agony's in the water, and it drips down beneath the Pizzaplex, and it's used to make the concrete, or it's used to blah blah blah, to well that people drink from. Like, that is a ghost story trope that we just haven't seen in FNAF yet. And so if that's what Scott's going for, I'm kind of like, you're being a little vague about it, buddy. But if it's not that, I have no idea.
Yeah, we might get there. We might, again, with the Steel Wool era, it's very much not, it's not like we have all the pieces yet, so we can't answer all the questions, because that lake could be the most important lake of all time. Like, that could be where the very first murder was committed, or, you know, where Afton crawled out of.
They hid the body.
Hell. Yeah, or yeah, they hid the body there, whatever. You know, yeah, we could have any number of reveals about that lake, but we just don't know yet. But it is interesting to tie it to the one above ground near MCM. My only issue is with the Fall Fest thing. Fall Fest seems to be away from the factory that Fiona has to be gone from. Like, if it was just like 5 minutes down the road, she wouldn't have to leave the house. So, you know, I can see it being related to the lake, but not to Fall Fest necessarily. PB Sandwich actually just submitted an interesting connection with the whole Toy Bonnie thing we were talking about. Shadow Freddy equals Golden Freddy equals Fredbear equals the Bite of 83 culprit. So Shadow Bonnie equals Toy Bonnie equals the Bite of 87 culprit. That's it. That is a connection you can make. There's more evidence for your theory. Where were you gone? Hang on. What's the name of the person who left that theory? Sorry, I'm really bad with names. I want to make sure I'm not missing any of these theories.
I don't remember.
Fluffy Pretzels, that's it.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yes, so there's more evidence for you. I submitted... Oh, James Jerk, I missed this. I submitted a theory about the Tales books, or at least the Mimic, technically being in continuity. Okay. that sounds like one.
It's possible. It is possible that the Tales epilogues still fit into the games, but the idea
This
that the
includes
Tales
the Mimic.
epilogues. Oh, then never mind.
Oh, okay. Hang on.
uh,
So I've read the theory. I have the theory that the original Mimic book story and maybe all of Tales is a false memory / dream created by M1 from a mix of different information. So this, I'm going to assume, is linked to the memory note
the dream
in the basement. Yeah, memory error. I'm just going to read through this really quickly because it's quite long. A lot of personal red herrings that connect to the original story and blatant differences. David's red ball at the playground when his actual ball is very different. Dispatch's description of the Mimic being very similar to the books when it's actually very different. The gator and the dog mascots that David and Mimic wear being spring locks instead of fabric suits, etc. Yeah, the specific note referencing the original story makes more of those red herrings than just like, oh, it's just non-continuity.
It's a hint to Tales fiction.
Yeah, Tales fiction.
Yeah, Fiona's gonna write down these memories later.
Yeah,
I'm half joking it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm I like the idea of giving Tales a more concrete, like, in-universe reason to exist, you know, so that if you've read all those stories and if you've gone through that whole, you know, book series, that it's almost like it wasn't for nothing. You know, it's not just, oh, we'll just rewrite it all and it'll be fine. It is that, but it's also being able to kind of say, well, it is relevant because it informs the way Fiona thinks, or it's informed by the way Fiona thinks. And so then you can have a bit of fun linking what is true and what isn't true. It's the same with Fright's fiction. So I do really like that idea, James Jerk. So I would be totally fine if that became more concrete.
Have we read Ursa 2's $5 super chat from a while ago?
See, Ursa 2. I'm just going back.
What are your thoughts on Dual Process's theory that the Silver Eye kids are the DCI?
Oh, yeah. Sorry about missing that, by the way, Ursa 2. Thank you very much for the super chat. I really like that video. I think it's a great video. Like, my thing with Dual Process theories, I always really like their videos. I always really like their way they approach theories and their kind of new way of looking at things. You know, from their very first theory to now, they've been doing that. I only have issue with it from the point of view of issue with the DCI as a concept. And I was thinking about it recently, and I realized the reason I have more of an issue with it, rather than it's not evidence-based that I have issues with. I think the evidence is all there in the game to suggest that there's more kids that died based on the phone calls, based on the mini games, based on everything. My issue with it is genuinely from a story perspective, which I understand from a theory point of view isn't the most like solid thing, because, you know, someone's opinion on a story is going to be different from somebody else's. I just personally have an issue with like giving the MCI and Elizabeth and Charlie and David these huge roles and making them very important characters and showing them and showing how they died, showing when they died vaguely, and then the DCI becoming the most like swept under the rug characters. You know, it's the same issue I have with any of the kind of nightmare experiment victims that aren't Michael, you know, like a Rory or the kidnapped kids from the fun times.
Or even Andrew.
Or Andrew.
If Andrew's the vengeful spirit, it's bad storytelling.
Yeah. If it's not a case of you can just take all the stuff from Tales and import it, and it's just that Andrew is, but he's a parallel to his version in the books, that's the same issue. I mean, at least there he'd be given a role and a story in just UCN alone, but it is still the same kind of issue. That being said, I did like that video. I did like their reasoning around linking the kids to the different Silver Eyes people. I thought it was interesting. I think it's a cool way of looking at it. My issue is more generally with the DCI itself rather than their particular take on it. I think if there were a take on it that I like more than most, it would be that, because it gives them a bit more importance. It does give them a little bit of that relevance, which I find is lacking in the DCI in general. Did you get a chance to look at that video, Gibby?
I haven't seen the video, so maybe maybe they'll have one sentence that really convinces me. But one of the reasons I don't really care about DCI topics now, which might change. You know, any game now we might get an explanation. But it's the same reason I don't accept lefty DCI. It's not that the pieces don't fit, because they do. It's that the theories are sort of trying to fill in a gap as opposing to looking at evidence and following the leads, right? If you're like, what happened to the DCI? Where could they be? Well, we don't know where the DCI go, and we don't know where lefty comes from, so they fit together. And again, it works. There's no contradiction, but I don't think the evidence adds up to that being a conclusion. And so to me, it's sort of like, it's a headcanon. It's a way of being like, you know, it's not a bad story. Scott did this, and so it actually works.
Yeah.
And so if you want to like believe that, if Scott never does answer the DCI, or if he does and it's a stupid answer, then yeah, it does make the story better to believe those things. I just don't think that they're intended.
Yeah, that's a good summation, I think. Crashmaster, again, another donation. Thank you very much. Speedrun, MCI 85, sister location after 1 before 3, DCI happened, Charlie 83, BV first, bite victim's name is Dave, Midnight Motor is about William and Michael, Michael is Fritz Smith and Fright Guard, all are true in my opinion. Whoa, okay, that is a speedrun. MCI 85, I'm on board. Sister location after 1 before 3, I'm on board. DCI happened.
What?
Shaky. Sister location, the game takes place after FNAF 1 but before FNAF 3. The DCI happened. Shaky. Charlie 83, I'm on board. Bite victim first. I go back and forth on that based on Midnight Motorist.
Correct.
Bite victim's name is Dave. At the minute I'm on board, I'm trying to look into it a little bit more. Midnight Motorist is about William and Michael. No, I don't personally like the... If that's the case, I don't like the way it was conveyed, but I'm on board for it mostly. Michael is Fritz Smith and Fright Guard. I'm not so sure about Fritz Smith. I am absolutely on board for him being the Fright Guard. That's my speed run of your ones. Thank you very much, Crash.
All right, I'm not feeling too great. I'm gonna take off, but thank you for having me.
All right, no worries, T-Dreads. Thanks
And
so much.
don't worry about shilling. Don't worry about shilling my stream. I'm not gonna do one today.
Okay, no worries. All right,
Yeah.
I'll see you, TD.
Okay,
Bye.
see you guys.
Feel better.
Let me see. Robin St. Pierre. Hey, Unwithered, when do you think your FNAF 2 reimagining video will come out? Also, imagine TF141 being trapped in the Pizzaplex. TF141. Is that the...
TF.
Is that like Task Force 141 from Call of Duty?
Oh.
That's like Captain Price and Ghost and
Price
Soap and all them.
Yeah.
Bravo 6 going dark. Man, Price v William, the English fight. That'd be great. When's my FNAF 2 reimagining video coming out? Probably in, I don't know, I don't want to say. Because I don't want to put a big date on it. I want to say within the next month. But that's not a promise, but that's my kind of goal. I'm getting through it. I'm nearly finished the 8-bit kind of mini games. It's just some of them are taking a while to draw because I've shot myself in the foot by making them complicated. But yeah, it's going really well. I think you're all going to be excited when it comes out. So thank you very much for your question. Let me see. I've got more here. Actually, I've got more super chats. So, OJ, Key Haro. Probably get this a lot, but has the FNAF 2 reboot video coming along. What's the one thing... what is one thing, Dory, that you genuinely don't like? I assume you mean in the story that I genuinely don't like, and that would be the DCI, because I'm getting rid of them. They don't exist in my reboot. Okay, I've got a few different super chats to go through. So, is that a double comment? Oh, sorry, I meant to ask, what is one theory you don't think you'll ever accept? How is the FNAF 2 reboot video going? Thank you very much for clarifying. What's one theory you don't think you'd ever accept? Gibby, what's yours?
Anti-will care. I legitimately don't think it's possible. Like, there's a 0% chance that will care is not Scott's intention.
So, okay, I was watching, I think it was Withered was talking to was he on a stream or on a video?
He's talked about it in a stream that I wasn't on. Him and T-Dreads did like a debate about will care, but none of them believed it, so it was kind of silly. My constant challenge to anti-will care people is always like, prove it without using the books. And Withered made a whole video that was, you have to be able to use the books. And I'm like, well, that doesn't answer my question.
I think Withered's issue, and he brought it up on that stream, was will care in general as an idea. Like, William believes his kids are objects, or he cares, he thinks he loves them, but he doesn't, like, he's not a good father, that whole thing. I think you and I would be on the same page in that sense, where he's not like, it's not like he's a good father or he's like a loving person, or, you know, it's actually a tragic story because he's loving his kids so much that he does all this stuff for them. I think the issue is that when we come into FNAF theories with like titles, you know, like will care as a title, that phrase is usually associated with that interpretation of William, like where he is a good father and he is a loving person, and like, you know, I think Withered pointed it out on the subreddit that like it's like a big love heart around or not the wiki. There's like a big love heart around William and his kids, and it's like William was a loving, caring father, and that's like what the theory will care technically by definition is, whereas we would believe in like a will object,
will
or whatever.
Grief spark victim, like
will grief spark
the death
victim, yeah.
Yes, will grief spark victim. I do think, and so this is mildly complicated, so I think that it's a one bad day scenario. Will is a relatively normal guy who loses his child and goes insane. Now, the moral of the Killing Joke in Batman is that Joker's like, if anyone, you know, I'm crazy and evil because I had one bad day and it could happen to you too. And the moral of the story is that he kidnaps Commissioner Gordon and does all this bad stuff to him and, you know, attacks his daughter. And at the end of the story, Commissioner Gordon doesn't turn evil, because having one bad day does not turn a normal person into a crazy psycho clown. Yeah. That happened to the Joker because he is crazy.
Yeah, so and like it's shown that he's not a good person, like in advance of that happening. He's like damaged, and it's sad the situation he's in, but he's not the best person in the world that goes crazy because of all these bad things that happen to him. And I would agree. Yep. I think William is probably more sinister than we might give him, or we might give like the Joker before he turns. You know, like I think Secret of the Mimic shows that he's very predatory in terms of his business practices.
Yes. I think he's the kind of 80s father who, when his kid comes home, he throws a beer can at him and he's like, why didn't you feed the cat? And the kid's like, oh, you know, and he's not emotionally there for his children. And also we're assuming that like there's no mother in the picture and he's a working father, right? Like he's not father of the year. But I think in another scenario where his son didn't die, he would not have become a serial killer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's also, yeah, like you were saying, without tying it up in the books, my thing with will care, or whatever, will grief spark victim, whatever, his depiction in all other media is mostly as this like psycho killer guy who just kind of is that way regardless. And so then it kind of, I don't like that version. I much prefer the version that's like kind of twisted by a tragic event. But it's I think it's up in the air for me whether or not, because like if they said if it came out, you know, in the next Steelwool game that William did kill David and it was for no reason and it was just because or it was to ruin Edwin's life or whatever, I wouldn't be like, what? Oh my god, that's insane. I would just be like, okay, so the version in the games is closer to the version in the movies and the books than I would like. You know.
Yeah, it would be more of a So, I don't want to like conflate all sort of anti-will care people in one group, but there is a vocal anti-will care people who think that it's like justifying abuse if you believe will care, which I think is crazy. And sort of my example, right? Because you know, we just talked about DC, so let's talk about Marvel for a second. In Endgame, you know, it's like the only way to get the Soul Stone is to sacrifice something you love. And Thanos kills Gamora and gets the Soul Stone. So according to God in the MCU, Thanos did love Gamora. And Thanos is a monster who slaughtered her people and kidnapped her and tortured her. So if that's how Will thinks of his children, it's still Spark victim Will grief. You know, it's still he's doing it because he has his own version of attachment to these people.
Yeah, it's like, and not to get too heavy or anything, but like abusers it doesn't necessarily mean that they are like a complete psychopath that has no empathy and don't feel anything and just do it because they enjoy it, or and again, it's not justifying it at all, but it's like from their own perspective, it's a very warped perception of love. And so to say like, oh well, he just doesn't care because he's a bad father, it's like, no, he might think that what he's doing is okay, or that he does care about them and he doesn't care about what he's doing. There's a lot tied up in it, and I think in FNAF it gets boiled down very much to black and white answers, which is funny considering how grey the entire series is in terms of how we don't know anything, but people just want like a definitive answer. Did he or did he not love his kids? And that's a very complicated answer, so I think we're kind of on a close perspective on that. Theories I wouldn't ever accept. There's very few. I mean, like you could go somewhere like adult theory or like World War II experiments or something like that. I think I would probably something like that. I'd quit. I'd be done. Fluffy Pretzels again. Thank you very much. I do think Shadow Bonnie could have been Jeremy, having something spiritually warning him of his potential fate. Maybe it was Shadow Bonnie was passive at one point.
That's oh darn, I like that.
Yeah, like a projection because he's Jeremy, connecting him to Bonnie.
Oh, Jeremy connecting to Bonnie. I was more like still building off of the toy Bonnie's going to do the bite of 87. That Shadow Bonnie is there to sort of omenize, the oncoming bite.
That's cool. I like that. Good stuff. Let me see. Mabbit Wertney. Let's go check you out. Mebbit Wertney. The vengeful spirit is William's conscience, so he doesn't let himself rest. Toyshank is probably Charlie because he regrets it the most, or maybe because she was the first, I don't know. The scene with OMC and Leave the Demons to His Demons is like a prequel where he tells Charlie or whoever let Billy be because he knows he won't rest anyway. No other people are present. What they're saying is what William would expect the people he killed to say, and the Golden Freddy cutscene at the end is like his worst sin. I think it's the crying child in there. So that's interesting. So that like William's hell is his own. Leave the Demons to His Demons being like a prequel to the story. That's an interesting take. I don't know what the purpose of showing that would be if the idea was that it was all himself. You could argue that the title of the main menu music, Isoptrophobia, which is a fear of one's own reflection, that could tie into it. I mean, that's the whole like theme of that game, right? Is like punishment for your sins. And so everything that he's done is being thrown back in his face. The idea that I kind of do like the idea, if we run with this, that the one you shouldn't have killed is not an actual singular spirit. And the problem people have with Toyshink as like a name even is, why is there only one that you shouldn't have killed? Like, why is one more important than the other? It's kind of interesting if that idea is, well, there isn't actually just one. Like it's a manifestation of William's sin or guilt or whatever being thrown back at him, and so it is this like non-literal character. It's kind of interesting. I don't know if I'd necessarily say that was Scott's intention, but I do kind of like that. I don't know about like Charlie being the first, or because the problem is when you have like Charlie in the game as the puppet and then no references being made about that, and I don't think it really lines up with her characterization, what little of it we have. How do you feel about that idea of like having a kind of a non-literal vengeful spirit?
I think that the very few details we get in the games need to be taken as a sort of like, I've tried to like say this before, but it's very I don't know, it's very like artsy, I guess. when we're so zoomed out and we're looking at such a low resolution story, the small details that we do get, I think, have an outsized importance. And so when a being is called the one you should not have killed, I think we can safely say it is one person. I think that's a much safer thing to say than almost anything else in the series, because it's one of the very few names that we actually get.
Yeah, that's fair. Let me see. Ursa, thank you very much for your donation. I left a crackpot theory in the Google Forums, lol. Theory, Fiona is Mrs. Afton. She's got the hair of David, can produce children with green eyes like Elizabeth has, and she is a performer, since Ballora is theorized to be modeled after Mrs. Afton herself. Fiona cheated on Edwin with William. Damn. I mean, this is Will Cook theory. Or Edwin Cook theory? I don't know.
We have a... It's a while back. I actually can't even scroll back that far. There's a $10 donation from Rose Zach. Like, I can't even see it on my computer anymore. I don't know if you can get to it.
Let me see. Sorry, guys. I'll go back on the stream. Do you know roughly how long ago it was?
Less than 10 minutes. I refreshed and then like I lost the top 2 super chats.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, because I'm going down in my list, but I'll go back. I'll find it. Let me see. Oh, I have the Rose one here. Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
I have a few going through.
Okay.
Let me see. Yeah, I'll get to that one next. So yeah, with Fiona is Mrs. Afton. My issue with the Fiona is Mrs. Afton is she could only really have been Michael's mother. Again, we're all dealing with dates that we don't really know and understand, but presumably if Michael is somewhere around early teen age, which seems to be what he is in FNAF 4, and Dave is somewhere between like 4 and 8, like in that kind of range, then I think she would have been dead, because she dies in 72, is it? 73? I think we worked out.
Yeah, 3rd birthday.
Yeah, so unless she faked her death, which I don't think is the case, she could only have been the child. She could only have born Michael before she died. Unless Elizabeth is a lot older and a crying child is a lot older than we think. I think the connections there with, like, the baby isn't mine, that whole thing, I'd more look at maybe Mrs. Afton or below. I'd look at Fiona maybe as a representation of that, like, hole in William's life, maybe. And if we tie that in future games and we have the two of them having known each other, interacted with one another, there could absolutely be place to, like, sync her up with other characters. But right now I don't think we have the evidence to say, like, oh yeah, she was definitely this person. But it is an interesting crackpot idea. So thank you, Ursa, very much. Let me see. I did that one. Scrolling down. Crashmaster, thank you again. Thank you for the speedrun review. I appreciate it. You're one of the greatest current FNAF creators. Oh, thank you very much. That's very kind of you to say. Let me see. Rose, here we are. All right, it's done. I sent in my theory via the forum. The thesis of the theory, the puppet does not have the ability to give life and is controlling the FNAF 1 and 2 gang against their will. Interesting. Okay.
Let's
what? Find you here. Rose. I might have to actually refresh this. Oh boy, there is a lot of things. Let me see. Leave. Rose. No. Rosa. Holy moly. Okay. This is a one. I call this theory conductor puppet. I would just call it puppeteer. Because she's I'm currently making a video on this, but feel free to discuss it. You can take the name puppeteer, by the way, if you would like. This is a very simplified version of the theory, so if you have questions, please ask. Theory: the puppet does not have the ability to give life and is controlling the FNAF 1 and 2 gang against their will to enact her revenge on Afton. So, to get a couple of things straight on beliefs I have with the series. In canon, we know piloting an animatronic is difficult. Fighting the nature programming of the suit you possess is not easy. We see this in Springtrap, a supposed evil genius that's lured to Sorry. That's lure to rooms with simple tricks, or the puppet an entity that's more aware than the others but is still forced into a box with music. There's a bunch of examples. Second thing I want to get straight, the animatronic in the prize corner is called the marionette, not the puppet. The puppet is the name of the creature that is the hybrid between Charlie Spirit and the marionette. Yes, that's fair. I think the puppet is even more of just like a fan.
It's the way that Golden Freddy is.
Yeah, is Fredbear in universe.
Fredbear. Yeah.
I just
like Ralph calls. I never liked that puppet thing.
Yeah, it's not an official name.
In universe, it's the puppet, but it's the marionette, but it's blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm. Third, the puppet existed before the FNAF 2 location. Yes.
Yes.
The puppet's origins is the infamous retcon that Scott brought up all those years ago. This is the pronoun mistake. So I know a lot of people immediately are going to, just as we're going, I'm just going to address a couple of things. The pronoun thing, people say can't be the retcon because Scott talked about the retcon before the pronouns changed in the later game.
Correct.
I have before made the argument or considered the argument that basically, or Puppet Master is right there. That's another one. That's another good name. The idea of Charlie being the puppet could have been an idea in Scott's head as early as FNAF 3 or 4 because of the Silver Eyes and the way he was kind of setting up those stories and the daughter of Henry and all this kind of stuff. So you could argue that he had retconned things behind the scenes, but I don't think he would have talked about the retcon in the way he did because he said that people didn't notice. So if it wasn't something he'd implemented in games yet, I don't think he would have said that. But anyway, regardless. So I think you're just going to address that like the puppet is Charlie as early as that game. Those three things in mind, let's talk about the features the marionette was programmed with. In lore, we know she was programmed with the following features: giving gifts at the prize corner for high scores on games, babysitting kids based on whether they had a special bracelet on, called the babysitter mode, directing animatronics. Let's call this directing mode. We know that this is the ability the puppet possesses based on the FNAF 2 movie scene that was shown at SDCC. This is just anyone that's watching that doesn't want spoilers for the movie. Just I suppose plug your ears. I have not actually heard about this scene.
Me neither.
Yeah, there's apparently something about the puppet controlling other characters from the movie, but I don't know. I don't know the actual source of that other than it's from apparently San Diego Comic-Con. I didn't know they showed anything at San Diego. That's cool. Now, with all that in mind, let's talk about the theory. In FNAF 2, we know the toys share parts with the Withered crew. If we assume the Withered crew came from the same location the puppet did, we can also assume the directing mode works on them. Now that the toys have the same haunted parts as the wizard, the marionette has the ability to direct them. I mean, I argue if that's the ability of the animatronic, then the toys would arguably be controllable regardless of if it's haunted or not. I think the puppet tried to give the MCI their happiest day by giving them gifts, which failed. Golden Freddy wanted revenge, not gifts. In the response, the puppet had no choice but to attempt to take the life of the man who killed them. The puppet then gives the characters life. She controls the characters like a puppeteer with strings, forcing the suits to make them attack Mike, mistaking him for Afton. I mean, then you have to explain Jeremy as well. I would argue that it's just because they're a night guard and William was the previous night guard, so they think it might still be him, or they're confused. So the puppet thinks killing the guard will give Golden Freddy his or her happiest day. That's interesting. They almost succeed, getting a bite off of him during the day shift, but are unsuccessful. The puppet gets a second chance to try and kill the guard during FNAF 1. These are the nightmare sequences in FNAF 2. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, okay. So you think that the nightmares in FNAF 2 are flash forward rather than flash back, which is her bringing them to life in FNAF 1 to go get Mike. The only time Golden Freddy ever gets closure is when Afton burns in 3, though we know Golden Freddy isn't truly satisfied this. Some meta evidence for this theory is that every modern interpretation of the FNAF 1 crew, someone is always controlling them. They cannot act on their own will except for Golden Freddy. I think Scott wants the murderous parts of the characters to be something outside of their nature. He always wants to paint the MCI kids as victims, not the killers. Mm-hmm. If this theory is true and she's attempting to torture Afton via random collections of characters that are semi-haunted, then it explains a lot in the series. How David can have a ghost outside the Mimic and still be haunting the Mimic. The only time characters move is when the puppet is nearby, they have AI inside them, or it's a Springlock suit. UCN is a mirror of the puppet's behavior. One could say a fearful reflection of what Afton created. There's a lot more examples. You can figure them out yourself.
Bum, bum, bum.
This is good evidence against DCI and Charlie 87. I think you're going to like the Reboot 2 video. I kind of like the idea of the flash forward nightmare thing. That's kind of cool. I never really considered that. I think...
But then where's the puppet in FNAF 1? Was that addressed?
It's not addressed. I assume it's that she's hiding off screen. Which, you know, there could be arguments for, because we don't actually know where the puppet goes after after 2, and we might know that it goes to Fazbear's Fright if you believe that the one in the hallway is the real one, and then we have no idea where it goes until FFPS when it's in Lefty. So we don't have anywhere. We can't like account for it being somewhere else, I suppose. I guess I would then argue, where is it in Sister Location? Unless you're saying that maybe Baby is the one that's puppeting them in that situation. I like the idea. I like the idea with the toys. I will say I like the idea that the puppet directs the toys specifically, if we don't want to make them possessed like DCI wise. I'm not sure, because your argument being like Scott doesn't want to make the MCI murderous. I think it's weird then for him to just shift that responsibility onto one kid, who is Charlie, who is supposedly like a benevolent kind of character, or like a more positive force. How do you feel about the kind of the whole take?
I think that okay, it's impossible for my answer to not be colored by knowing spoilers from the movie that even you don't know, so I think I will not answer.
Okay.
I will say that would mean that the characterization we get in UCN, where she goes, "I don't hate you, but you need to stay out of my way," is the exact opposite of the way that she's acted throughout the entire series up to that point. If she's like the vengeful in charge of everything, I think that's a very odd line to give her in UCN.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I like it. I like it if she's the one directing the toys in that location. Not sure how I feel. I mean, you could argue that's kind of what Save Them is. You know, she's getting Withered Freddy up out of the safe room. I don't know if maybe I'd argue about I think arguing about the purpose that she has, or like that she's doing it against their will, but maybe more that she's controlling them or helping them maybe have a bit more control of their suits might be something I'd be more open to.
Yeah.
But thank you for your very, very long comment and for your super chat. So here we go. Thank you, Rose. Jada Pug. Plush Trap theory. Plush Trap is the nightmare version of Michael's plushie, not Spring Bonnie. Like how Dave Cryingchild has Fredbear. Love your vids. Thank you very much, Jada Pug. That's kind of cool. That because we don't see a Spring Bonnie toy other than the one that the kid with the Love Heart shirt outside of Fredbear's has. So it's cool if Michael has one and that his is Spring Bonnie. That's kind of cool. I kind of like that he has a Plush Trap chaser. It's also like the more aggressive one, I guess, that he might like that one more than the others. That's kind of cool. I don't have much more evidence for or against that, but I think it's a cool idea. Prince Cheddar sent a FNAF 4 theory I think was valid, but retconned by Sister Location. Not sure if that's what we want for the stream. No problem, though. Thank you, Prince Cheddar. I will find that now. Prince Cheddar. Okie dokie. My FNAF 4 theory was for back when it released. I think it might have been valid at the time, but isn't anymore. The minigames are part of the dream. The entire game is linear. You go through a day and night cycle. The minigames are dreamed during the day. The main game is what happens at night. The older brother is excessively tormenting because it's a nightmare representing the trauma of the party. The boy keeps being brought back to the restaurant because it's a nightmare. The boy probably went only to the restaurant once in reality, unprepared for how they looked up close, but the dream keeps bringing him back to Annie to try and make him remember what happened. If the minigames are in dreams, how does Scott hint about the toy cheek doll missing her beak fit in? It means our protagonist has information from the real world he shouldn't know. Therefore, he is being affected by supernatural forces. The killer's body was destroyed in 3. The photo at the end being spirit photography. Okay. To avoid going to hell, the killer latched on to the only place where the animatronic characters he now controlled, shown through the phantom still existed, the mind of the child. The nightmare animatronics are Afton's attempts to possess the child, hence failure having consequence when you die in the end. The Fredbear plush in the minigames is the form Afton takes during the day, who he keeps trying to help the boy escape the restaurant so he doesn't remember the truth and the dream collapses. The ending is Afton desperate to try and convince the boy that he can help, but the child accepts reality and dies. Night 7 is Afton in hell. So, okay. This is kind of loop victim-y, in a sense, that the minigames, the actual daytime minigames, are also part of the dream. Or at least that they are part of the psyche of the crying child. I get a little lost when you're saying that it's all happening post FNAF 3, because you're saying that William latches onto the crying child to try and possess him, and the like loop victim idea of him like realizing the truth of his reality would like put him to rest, and Afton is trying to stop him from doing that. That's kind of interesting in terms of like an Afton involvement even that early on, but I don't understand when the crying child was bitten. Like, was he bitten in 83 and has been in a coma all these years, like up until like 2015 and beyond, and then Afton latches onto him? Not so sure about that part. The the whole dream bringing him back to try and make him wake up is very loop victim. I know you're a fan of that, Gibby. How would you feel about Afton being the one in that role of the, like, what I think is Cassidy and loop victim?
Of being what, like being the
Fredbear plush? Yeah.
So it's loop victim, but it's actually... So, like, Afton's ghost, because it's post FNAF 3, is the bear, and it's loop victim.
Yeah.
Is Afton aware of the loop?
Yeah, what he's saying is that... What Prince Cheddar is saying is that Afton is actively trying to stop the crying child from waking up, loop victim style. So he's trying to get him to not be put back together, basically, because he wants to do something with him. I think they're suggesting that he wants to possess him, but he's already in a coma, so I don't know why that would work.
Yeah, I mean, the bear is antagonizing crying child, but also wants to protect him. So it's no matter who or what it is, it's a very interesting character. So yeah, I don't know if I find that more compelling than other answers, but again, it fits the gap we have, which to me makes it valuable, even if I don't find it more compelling than other things.
Yeah, I think... you were saying at the start of the theory, like, oh, this was probably true when 4 came out, but was retconned. I think if loop victim is true, the idea that Afton is the one as the Fredbear plush would actually be more in line with what we have now, considering all the Afton's ties to the Fredbear plush. So you could still have a version of this be true. I would just personally look at the timeline of events, like when does the boy get bit to go into the nightmare to be possessed by Afton, if this is all happening after Afton's been burned in the fire. Maybe I'm missing something, so if you want to clarify in the comments or make a video yourself, because we're always looking for more theorists with new ideas, that would be great. But I'm getting a little bit lost on the when it occurs, but I think the idea of Afton being the kind of loop victim Fredbear plush could actually work. You would just need to look at when around that occurs. It could work actually because it's in the FNAF 3 building, which is where Happiest Day happens. So you could argue that after that, he does latch on to the spirit of the crying child. Maybe it's not a physical thing. Maybe it's more of a metaphysical thing. Aaron, curious to see what your opinion on mine is as well. MCI 83 to 85. The MCI happened from 1983 to 1985. The text in the Pigtail Girl in FNAF 4 suggests there are rumors and murders of stuffings already happened. The paper clippings in FNAF 1 location use words such as many years ago and how 2 children connected to the 5 missing children, suggesting it's happening over a period of time. Makes more sense over years than the MCI happening in a few weeks or a single day. Gibby, you're a huge fan of this. I don't know if you want to.
Canon, 100% accurate. So the pigtail girl doesn't say anything about being stuffed. She says that they hide your body and they never find you, which makes perfect sense if kids have gone missing but haven't been found. I don't think the general public ever learns that they were stuffed inside the suits. I think that's an important part of the story, actually, that's never made public knowledge. At least in the first 7 games. Who cares about Security Breach and onwards? But yes, I agree. I believe that the newspaper's writing excludes it from being a single day. It like necessitates it being more than one day because it says that 2 people were tied to the disappearances. And obviously, I love Charlie being the first MCI victim, so I like it.
Yay! I didn't know you were a fan of that theory.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say I made the theory, but no, I think the MCI is Charlie and the other 4 main kids, and the DCI is Cassidy. Yeah.
We should talk. Oh, the DCI is Cassidy.
Yeah.
We need to talk about that more, I think, sometime. Key Harrow, thank you so much. $20 donation. Last donation before I head out. You won't like it. None of the games are real, and it's all a projection of grief from William. Trauma theory suggests ghosts and hauntings are grief's projections as a form of coping. None of the games are. It's a projection of grief from William. That is. You're right. I won't like that.
Yeah, so it's Matt Pat's first theory. FNAF 1 is William's torment. No.
Yeah, I don't know what sort of grief. Okay, so if we wanted to really take it and give it like a really good faith interpretation, the reason he would interpret himself as a murderer is because he would feel responsible for the death of his child, and so he sees himself as a bad person. I mean, listen, if you wanna do like a wake up in the shower at the end and it's all been a bad dream kind of thing, go for it. I actually, you know what? I'll say this. I think I would I prefer that to dream theory? Yes, I would. I would prefer that a lot to dream theory because it would at least be an adult mind coming up with all this stuff instead of like an 8-year-old with a brain injury. So I guess, unless you're saying that the games did happen, he did kill people, but that the actual robots and stuff weren't haunted. It's like all the supernatural stuff was not real, but William was. I don't know how that would work, but there you go. Let me see. I have another one here from...
Another fluffy pretzel.
Another fluffy pretzel. Where did it go? Oh, it's this bird. Last one. What game should I be most excited for? FNAF Heyday.
Metroid Prime 4.
Metroid Prime 4. Yeah. There you go. Because you were playing through the game. Sorry. You were playing through the games 1 to 4. That's what you said before. So, game you should be most excited for. So if you played 1 to 4 already...
FNAF World, the next one. You got to play it. It's so good.
FNAF World is a good one. I really like it. Some people, it might not be to your tastes. I think FFPS is quite fun. I think if you do all the endings in FFPS, you'll have a good time. So, Ephemeral Sean submitted my form for my argument for Mike Runaway under my name if you're interested in reading it. Perfect. I'm not a fan of Mike Runaway, so we'll see if you convince me. Ephemeral Sean.
Connie's here.
Connie. Hey, how's it going?
Other people. Z says the next game will be acronymed FNAF NTR. That's FNAF Nitro Team Racing. It means absolutely nothing else. And people are talking about touching grass.
Actually, into the pit game. That would be a good one. That's a fun one.
Into the Pit's great.
To be excited for. Don't think it's in continuity, but it's exciting. Mike Runaway, because the Runaway deliberately locked himself in the room while we know CC hated being locked in the rooms. Mike Runaway. Yes, I do. No, wait. Do I like Mike Runaway? No, I don't. Sorry.
Wait, who do you think is the Runaway?
CC.
Okay.
Deliberately locked himself in the room while we know CC hated being locked in rooms in FNAF 4. I would argue that's reason for him to get out of the room. We don't necessarily know that. We're told that he locked his door, but he could have been locked in there or could have been something else. Once in his own room and the other in parts and services, both done by Michael to torment his brother. Exactly. So he locked him in his room. He could have been doing that. I think this played a part in William's hatred of the runaway locking their door and specifically punishing Mike in the experiment rooms with doors that could not lock. Will Plush also supports this because the Plush is sympathetic to CC being locked in his room and annoyed with Mike for doing so. What did he do this time? He locked you in your room again. Don't be scared. I am here with you. That is fair. If it is Will Plush, he is sympathetic to him being locked in his room. Though I would argue there are probably two different scenarios. One where he's coming home drunk, having killed somebody, and the other where he's like just watching the kid on the cameras and potentially trying to be, I don't know, trying to mess with him. Yeah, I think in fairness, Mike Runaway, the issues I have with it are more again about how Scott would be telling that story or the choices he would make to convey that. But I think that's just true of Midnight Motorist altogether. So I'm fine with Mike Runaway, and I understand your reasoning of Mike locking doors and Cece not liking that. So, you know, there are definitely ties there. That does make sense. I think you believe Mike Runaway, right, Gibby?
If Midnight Motorist is about the Aftons, which I don't think it is, then I would assume Midnight Motorist 87, and I would assume Mike Runaway. However, as someone in chat just inspired me to think about, Orange Guy can't open a door. You know who else can't open doors?
I don't know. Who can't open doors?
The girl in the Five Keys Candy Cadet story. Orange Guy is Charlie.
Charlie can't get into the bar because she's only a little girl.
She's underage. You know you can't be here.
You can't be here. You shouldn't be driving. Amazing. That's why it's raining. It's a thematic relation to Charlie. It's perfect.
Yes.
Rose replied to the sister location characters point I made about the puppet master theory, puppet conductor theory. Sister location characters are their own thing, in my opinion. AI being AI. Okay, that's fair.
Yes.
Let me see. Scrolling down, seeing if I missed anything. Rose again. Look, I love schedule theory as much as the next guy, but like, when is Scott going to release the sister location victim list? # justice for the 2 hanged Fazbear workers. Oh boy. Unless it could be a completely innocent non-other list related comment. Could be completely unrelated to any other lists in current discourse and culture. Yeah, that's my thing with the victims of the schedule theory, is like, we don't know anything about those guys. They don't even do anything. I guess maybe they become the Blob or something. I'm trying to see if I've missed any other donations. I don't think I have.
I don't think you missed any donations. Connie did ask you what your thoughts on Bub the puppy being Mrs. Afton are.
Oh. So we know it's a girl, right? How do we know that again?
The storybook at the end, when it's like, the puppy yapped and yapped, and they got mad at her. We know it's a girl.
I need to look at it again, because as far as I remember, all those kind of pieces are interchangeable, right? Like in that story, they kind of all have the same income, like the same information about all of them. So there's not like, because I remember we did try to analyze it at the time, and then we realized that there is kind of so many interchangeable variations on that story that there isn't necessarily one through line you can draw. Bob the dog being her. Ugh. So I don't know.
Basically, it's that storybook has Freddy, Foxy, Chica, Bonnie, and then an alligator, and then a puppy. And in the Proto Freddies, we have Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, Bub the dog, and Monty the gator. So we have 6 characters are the same animals, and 6 characters are the same animals.
So it would be Edwin is Monty, and Fiona is Bub.
Fiona would be Chica, and Henry is Freddy, and William is Bonnie, and Fiona is Chica, and Edwin is Monty, and then Foxy and Bub are question marks. And so the sort of filling in the gaps thing is like, well, Bub is a female, so what if it's Mrs. Afton? It could also be Mrs. Emily.
Oh, sorry, Mrs. Afton is Bub.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought it was Fiona is Bub.
No, Fiona's Chica.
Oh, Mrs. Afton is Bob. I mean, we don't know anything about Mrs. Afton anyway. Sorry, I just saw we had Scully Draws. Welcome to the Unwithered Truthers. Thank you very much. I mean, we don't know anything about Mrs. Afton, so I would hesitate to relate her to any character other than maybe
We know
Laura.
she's not around.
She's not around.
That's what we know. And we know that in the puppy story, the puppy leaves.
Man, it'd be crazy for William to make his wife a female dog. That would be crazy.
Oh my god, you solved it.
Sorry. Anyway. Okay, well, now that we've done all those, we've done all the messages, what I'm going to do is go back to the list and just keep going. Just keep going in a straight line. Molten DCI. The theory, this is from Kiki Jones, or Sonny the Raccoon. The theory that the children from Save Them got turned into the Fun Times after the FNAF 2 location was abandoned. I think we have more evidence to suggest Molten MCI from both the books and the games. So I don't know. Molten DCI, I think, as you were saying earlier, like Lefty DCI, is a way to try and fill in gaps. It's a way of like, okay, Scott wouldn't leave this thread hanging. How do we solve it? Well, we don't really know what Molten Freddy is, so maybe it's the DCI. You know, I prefer Molten MCI because at the end of that game we get a gravestones with all the MCI on it, and it would feel odd to me to have a whole other set of kids that are present in that game that aren't the MCI, but the MCI get the highlight. That's my kind of take on it.
Yeah. Unless, okay, so like the names of the characters, your Susies and your Fritzes, taking out the books and the movie, we only ever see them on the great. So what if those names are just the DCI and we don't know the MCI names at all?
That'd be crazy. That'd be even crazier. That would be even more insane. Could be, but that would be even crazier. So, I mean,
so
then,
the
then
MCI were all freed in Happiest Day, so they've been gone since FNAF 3. The DCI are the Fun Times, so they're Molten Freddy, and then they're the Graves.
I would argue that the FNAF 3, if they all got released in Happiest Day, that's not a complicated ending. Scott would not have said that in the Doco interview. It is interesting and complex. That is not it. That's just one of them is true.
Fazent says Chica is tied to Susie through Frights, right? So ignoring Frights, ignoring that these names are in the Silver Eyes, ignoring the movie.
Yeah. Oh, like we can definitively say in every other continuity, these are the MCI names. It would be funny as well for two of the night guards that worked at FNAF 2 were also in the building with two of the kids that were killed in that same event.
With their names.
With their names. He killed them specifically because he was like, there's too many people with the same names in this building. I gotta get rid of some of them. Let me see. Wuthering Heights, thank you very much for your donation. Hey, been a fan since you dropped that killer FNAF reimagined video. Hear me out. I've really liked that Glamrock Freddy is Michael Afton theory. This is a popular one. I know a lot of people like this.
Yep.
I'm not against it. I'm not like, this could never be the case. Because, you know, I think in the same way that, like, Gregbot was something we laughed at and then got a little more evidence for with Secret of the Mimic. Not saying literally Gregbot, but as in, like, the connections. Making Gregory, if we have the Gregory, like, God David situation where he is some way related to the crying child, linking the protective older brother Michael to him, and then you can link Vanessa to Elizabeth, and you have the three Afton kids together. I quite like that. I like it. I don't necessarily, like, I'm not sold on it. I'm not like, oh yeah, I'll die on this hill. You know, he has to be Michael Afton. How do you feel about the kind of Glamrock Freddy is Michael thing?
I think that Security Breach was a weird game.
Yeah.
And I think that Glamrock Freddy being Mike is a very day one the theory came out type of theory, where we're like, instead of this being the start of a new saga, we're like, this is FNAF 8, here we are. Where's Mike? Oh, he's in the Glamrock. Where's Crying Child? Yeah. Oh, Gregory's a robot. Glamrock Freddy's a nice boy, and people love Mike because he was tortured so much, and so I think the idea that, like, And then he went on to be Glamrock Freddy, and he's our older brother again, and he's so like nice.
He's nice this time.
I sort of get the appeal of like sort of wanting the theory to be true, especially if Vanessa is Elizabeth and Gregory is Crying Child, like that sort of thing. I just don't think it's literally true. I think Denari thinks it's literally true. And she had a video about it relatively recently.
God, Michael, that's the thing.
Yeah, but I just don't see it. I think Michael has moved on. I think Michael's in heaven. I think it's over.
Yeah, I think so too, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they did, bring him back and then kill him again. Because that's the thing with this new era, is it feels like we're currently trapped in this, like, are we done with the old story or are we not? Because there's a lot of stuff tying us back into it, but also it feels like we're now just focusing on this whole mimic thing. But then if we're tying it into the Crying Child and stuff, does that mean we're still in the old... And Afton's still a villain, but is he? Is he gone now? I think we're still in this period of not knowing if we're fully out of the old era and into something just like we only should really focus on the new stuff. Yeah, I'm open to it. I'm not like 100% convinced of it though. Prince Cheddar back again. Thank you. Made a vid back in the day. Yes, kid is in a coma till 3. If the animatronic gets you, the killer takes over the body and wakes up as a miraculous recovery.
What?
So this is the theory about the William being the loop victim Fredbear plush. So this is like,
oh, if he wins the plushie
occurs.
game, then he skips 3 hours or something.
So sorry. This is if William is the Fredbear plush in the dreams, he is trying to stop Crying Child from being put back together, and his goal, he is the nightmare animatronics, or he's controlling them, and that if you die, they're a bad ending of the game, where William takes over the Crying Child's body and wakes up and just comes back into the world. We don't have any mechanics for that to be the case, but cool like headcanon fan story. I think if you wanted to go with that, go for it. I don't think we have any character possesses another character by going into their dreams and killing them and taking over their body. I guess maybe Vanessa, but we don't know the mechanics behind that. But hey, maybe Scott was on something different back in 2015. We don't know. Let me see. Pickle Pepper, thank you very much. Glamrock Freddy is CC, actually. There's evidence for it now with how he ends up changing to look like Golden Freddy and has signs of possession. Man, if he was CC and Gregory was David, I would be so mad. Yeah, him changing to look like Fredbear. One could argue if he is Michael, he would still be related to Golden Freddy or Fredbear through the bite, and that it would be like him owning his trauma, having been healed, he's taking the form of what he did wrong in the previous life. The signs of possession thing is interesting because I like it in terms of there's the speech that Glamrock Freddy has when you go into the endo daycare and he sees all the naked endoskeletons and he's really existentially looking at his life and being like, am I like a Monty with a Freddy shell? What am I? Is there hundreds of me? Does that make me special? If there's somewhere in another town, another Glamrock Freddy running around, am I unique? And I think it would be nice if he is a soul, that he is unique, that existential, kind of breakdown that he has is not for nothing. It's not for naught. He goes, am I special? And it turns out, yes, you are, because you're the reincarnated form of a dead guy who did bad stuff in the 80s. Okay, let's go back to the sheet. Scully draws. I've been theorizing for a while now that Michael occasionally uses the sound illusion disc he picked up off of Funtime Freddy on night 3 and uses it to blend in like the fake Charlie in the 4th closet. I think it was weird that he could just get jobs after he got Scoop and not seeing him as a walking corpse. A lot of people think that the thing in Funtime Freddy's chest is an illusion disc based on how it looks and how it's described in the 4th closet and the Silver Eye trilogy in general. They call it a power module, in fairness, in the game. Do you think it's an illusion disc, Gibby?
No. With the exception of Nightmare saying this time there's more than an illusion to fear, there's never been any indication that the illusion discs are games canon. And they call it a power module, and he was overcharging the electricity on night 2, right when we have to go reset the power. It's because he's in there, like, eating the electricity.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a power module. I think it's just what it says it is.
Yes, I agree. Absol, thank you very much. Mrs. Trap submitted another mic if you want a new take on Glam mic. Mrs. Trap submitted. Okay, well, let's have a look at Mrs. Trap.
So that would be that Fiona is trying to build another Michael.
It might have been in my community post, actually. Give me 2 seconds.
How do those work? Because like I gotta set one of those up, but I'm scared. I don't know what they're for.
For members only, or for just community posts in general?
Oh, just like in general.
Oh, you just go onto your channel and go into the posts tab, and then you can just type out like a tweet, basically, but it just goes to your subscribers. I've had a bug recently where if I link a video, like an upcoming video, which is either scheduled or like a live stream or something, it won't send it to my subscribers. Like I did that today, and it didn't go out to the subscriber lists, so I deleted it and then just put in a picture. So linking a video directly is seems to be a bit weird, but yeah, if you just post anything, people will see it, and then you can talk about stuff, and you can also set the visibility to be either public or to your channel members or specific tiers of your channel members.
That's cool.
So like I did one for the channel members today so that they could post a theory and get, you know, priority if I saw it. Let me see. Absolx, if you know where Mrs. Trap sent that, I don't know if you mean, you might have said this already. Let me see. When you say submitted it, do you mean to the Google form? Because it might be a new one. I might just have to refresh it. Let me see. And if it's under Mrs. Trap or if it's under a different name, let me know. Because I can't. In the forms, not here. Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Is there a different name that it's under, Mrs. Trap? It's okay. You don't have to send the super chats, but I appreciate it. Let me go down to the end. Let me see. I'm trying to see Mrs. Trap. Oh, here we go. Mrs. Trap, Absolx Garden Creator. Okay, so Absol came up with this theory, but Mrs. Trap has submitted it. I found it. Thank you very much. Michael could still be around in Security Breach, but as an AI, essentially like an M4. Okay, so we have M1, M2, M3 is Glitch Trap, M4 is Michael, I assume. Michael 4. F10 needed a way to combat the influence of Afton that was affecting M2 and the Pizzaplex, and Michael has always been the one to defeat William. I like that. So she recreated him as an AI and tried putting M4 into Glamrock Freddy, hence why he was booted into safe mode and isn't affected by Glitch Trap. That's why there's a Michael room, and that's who the code in that room is for. We assumed it was for Gregory, telling him how to play Security Breach, but it was actually telling Mike Mimic what to do. Basically Glamrock Mike, but it's not really his soul. I don't know how Fiona would create a Michael Mimic. Like, just create a fresh AI after he's dead. And then... Because the Mimic is supposed to learn, right? From... Unless there's, like, ghostly influence, it's supposed to learn from people. I guess she would just put it in a... So is that the idea? She puts him in the Michael room and gets him set up? There would probably be a bit of Fate Fiona in this as well, if she's aware of who that is. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming?
Yeah, it could also... This would be very circuitous, but it could be, like, the indie game devs... games tell the story of Mike. So maybe there could be data gained that way.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, kind of like the way some people thought that William was trained on Help Wanted. That Mike could be trained that way as well.
Yeah.
That's cool. I kind of like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not so sure about just like creating a full AI recreation. And he was booted into safe mode like on stage, or he freaked out on stage and then got booted into safe mode, so she would have had to input that code at some point in the middle of Security Breach. They said that there's more evidence of it as well in Help Wanted 2. Apparently, there's memories of Mike. That's interesting. If there's more to that, send it in. But it is an interesting idea. It's like another way of getting to Glam Mike. Demonic cephalopod for 200 Australia dollars. Thank you very, very much. I think that's Australian
What
dollars.
the heck?
That's a lot. Thank you so much. That's insane. Thank you. I think that's my biggest donation I've ever gotten. That's amazing. Cassidy is a dreamgeist similar to Freddy Krueger and Bill Cipher. She did the Bite of 83. She's the footprints. She and Will are both the plush. Happiest Day does not equal moving on. It's a type of recurring dream, a form of ghostly hibernation. Both endings of FNAF 3 are canon. So this is kind of, I know, Gibby, you were tweeting about it the other day about you finished the Stitch Rate Stingers and the way the ball pit works with all the like the kids being kind of given their happiest days, or you were thinking it was time travel. But if we go with the idea that like Happiest Day is basically just taking a memory of something and changing it to be happy, to be like a nice version of that memory, and then you kind of just live in that little pocket memory forever, that would kind of work. It also works if that's why if she is the vengeful spirit, why she's able to do that. Like her whole thing is that she can make little versions of reality that you can just like live in forever. The footprint, I assume you're talking about in Midnight Motorist.
Yeah.
And then she and Will are both the plush. I don't know. I guess because that would probably be like a loop victim thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very partial to the idea that it's like Cassidy playing the role of William. Like something to that effect. Or like my original idea was always like it's actually Crying Child talking to himself because arcade theory. Yeah. So like I wouldn't be opposed to that sort of thing. Like the purple guy sprite in FNAF World. Is it the purple guy? Yes. Is it literally William? No.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's a representation of that. So the Crying Child or she would be fulfilling that role within the arcade theory or within this like dream idea. The Dreamgeist theory. It's a good name for a theory. I like that as a ghost power, and I like it tying it into UCN with like what that world is or how they're capable of doing it. I suppose I'd be curious how that would tie in then to Golden Freddy's abilities, and what Golden Freddy can do in the real world, or if Cassidy is at all Golden Freddy, or if she's only this kind of like spirit that exists outside of reality, like only exists in dreams. It's cool though. I like it. Thank you very, very much for that donation. That's insane. If you have more to add on to it, feel free to just at in the chat, and I'll take a look, because that's really, really cool. Let me see. Yanver, will you get back to my Mike UCN theory? Sorry for being annoying. It was a bit frustrating to listen to you. Made a bunch of counterclaims that I touched upon in my comment. Yeah, sorry about that, Yanver. When I went to the post, it just had like a ... at the end, and it didn't have a read more. So I don't know if you were still typing it or if it was just a glitch on my end. We can jump back into it quickly. So I have the everything that Michael has seen thing. The whole Bear Vengeful cutscenes shows how CC is vengeful towards Mike for bullying him. That would amplify by 100 after Mike's prank. So yeah, that would tie into the Vengeful Bear cutscenes, which I brought up in my David Toyshink video. Presence of Springtrap and William as enemies. This observation is what began my obsession with this theory in the first place. Why would William be tortured by himself? We know that different animatronics in UCN have different personalities. You would think William would have something profound to say to himself, but instead it's just, I always come back. That's fair. I think either way, he should have had more to say. If it's William or Mike, you'd think he'd have something to say to his son, who he hates. But I get that idea that, like, why would William's hell include two versions of himself that don't really have anything much to say? The only friendly character in the whole game is Foxy. I think no further explanation at this point is needed. That's cool. Puppets lines. Seeing you powerless is like music to me, and I recognize you, but I'm not afraid of you, not anymore. Could point towards William. But I think it fits more for Michael, since the puppet attacking in FNAF 2. Mike is definitely Fritz since he's taken the name of the dead kid who was Foxy, and also fired for tampering animatronics, just like Mike is in FNAF 1. Could be a sign of the puppet being afraid of him as well as being William's crony at that point in time. Yeah, I recognize you. I'm not afraid of you, not anymore. That could work. Let me see. Vengeful spirit line spoken through Nedbear is, "This is how it feels, and you get to experience it over and over and over again, forever. I will never let you leave." So, what does vengeful spirit mean by it? Just death in general, or getting killed by a bear animatronic? Yeah, so that's good because it's Nedbear specifically. Yeah, because I think we usually just kind of take that line as a general view on UCN in general, but specifically making it Nedbear, and it sounds like Fredbear. That's good. I like that. Nightmare's line, "Iron, your wickedness made of flesh," is referencing turning Fredbear into a weapon against his own brother. Yep. I think we mentioned that before. I think Nightmare Fredbear is the closest thing to a physical manifestation of the vengeful spirit we have in this game, with him having two voices, just like the mediocre melodies, and all his other lines basically confirm that he is CC in some way. I think you agree with that, Gibby, with Nightmare Fredbear. But line, "This time there is more than an allusion to fear," is addressed to the player, and that it implies that the player in the past feared an illusion of Nightmare Fredbear, which would be Michael, as he draws Nightmare Fredbear in the logbook. That is fair. Baby says, "Time for your control chalk." Again, Michael is the one who used control chalk on her, though William probably did too, so this is not a great argument. Nightmare Freddy says, "I've always been hiding in your shadow." Well, he was always hiding in Mike's shadow in FNAF 4. Yeah, that's fair. That is such a weird line, regardless of what character is the hell victim. You know, "I've always been hiding in your shadow." Like, if it's William, I guess, because he made him. I don't know. It's an interesting, very interesting line. I guess you could argue if he's Freddy and William is Spring Bonnie. Is there something to be said there? I don't know. It might be a stretch. 11. In the background of the OMC ending, we can hear a distorted voice that screams, "I hate Mike, I hate Mike," and so on. I mean, it's hard to tell exactly what he says, but that's pretty much what we would imagine. People say that voice is William, but it's so distorted it could be anybody. And if Mike is the protagonist of UCN, the vengeful spirit would certainly have a reason to scream something like that. I think the only good counterclaim to the theory is OMC's "leave the demon to his demons," but you could say that OMC thinks that despite his actions, Michael has not redeemed his abuse and murder of his brother, or him working for William for some time. Again, I think it ties into how you interpret Mike's character. If you think he has redeemed himself by the end of the game, it is a pretty sad and dour ending of the series, that like this guy who worked so hard in life to do better has been now left to eternity of like hell, you know, for doing something when he was 14. But if you think of him as like this accomplice that worked with William and only kind of tried to turn it around in the end, then maybe it's not enough. That CC coming back is, you know, that's more like a cathartic ending, that William is just sent to hell and Mike is brought into this version of the world. I don't know, is there anything extra in there? I know the Nedbear thing seemed to stick out to you, Gibby. Is there anything in that makes you a little more open to Mike Hell?
Almost all of the voice lines, I do find it interesting that they do sort of line up to give that evidence. It's just that a lot of the voice lines double for William, and I think William makes more sense as the person being tortured. Nedbear saying, "You know what it feels like," could be speaking sort of on behalf of Mike, who had gone through basically the same sort of things himself. He's like, "I had to be a security guard and flip up all the cameras and stuff. Now you know what it feels like."
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be lots of things. Nedbear's interesting just because he's I think the only character we haven't gotten the origin from like Secret of the Mimic. Like all the other mediocres we've seen older versions of, but we still don't know where Nedbear came from.
That's very true. Yeah, we don't actually get his kind of parallel in the past. He's still a bit of a mystery. That's very true, actually. Yeah, I didn't think about that. He's kind of left out of the MCM-ification of all of them. I guess you could argue that maybe when Stan took all the designs, he just kind of had to he took like Fiona's Fredbear design, but he just kind of moved it around a little bit. Nice. Okay, I think we'll keep going for maybe another 15 minutes, and then we might call it a night because this has been going on for a while. If that's good with you, Gibby.
Yeah, it's good. It's only been it'll be 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours. I think that'll work.
That's good.
But I obviously have a lot in this spreadsheet which has not been addressed yet. So what I'm going to do is I'll probably do another one of these streams maybe next week and go through more, or I will answer people's comments if there's like personal ones and chats and stuff that I haven't gotten to. So yeah, first of all, thank you everybody who's donated and super chatted and become a member and all that kind of stuff. But I'll keep going. We'll try and fly through a few of these. We'll go for the shorter ones, and then we'll see how we're getting on. Okay, 2 more. Thank you so much. Fluffy Pretzels. How do you feel about the mimic pretending to be me? I don't know what you're talking about. I am always the unwithered truth. I've never been an unwithered mimic. Nothing like that. Don't even know what you're talking about. Jackbit. I'm a huge fan of your videos. I submitted a pretty long theory that CC survived the bite of 83 and later became Toy Shink when he got spring locked. Jackbit. I assume you've probably seen my my David Toy Shink video, but I go into that a little bit. So okay, I'll go through this quickly. In FNAF's Midnight Motorist video from 4 months ago, he showed that Fruity Maze, Midnight Motorist, and Charlotte Death games are all connected. I really did like that video. Did you get to see that one video? That one, Gibby?
Which one specifically?
This was John when he talked about Midnight Motorist, and he mentioned how each of those games ends in a way that kind of leads into the next one. So like Susie's Fruity Maze ends with like a car alarm,
A car, and then tires, and then car.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, I thought that was really good to connect them that way because I completely forgot that was how Fruity Maze ended. This is the kind of thing that happens when you look at enough stuff from FNAF for so long, you kind of forget the on the face stuff that people don't talk about, which is why it's important to play the games. So Susie's dog is buried in the hidden grave that we see right after Charlotte is killed, showing that the MCI already happened. Then when we get this would be an MCI 80. Oh no, okay. So then we get home. Mike is on the sofa and tells us to go easy on him, suggesting that Cece is still alive. I think one of the FNAF calls we're told about, it's surprising that a human can survive without their frontal lobe. Then in FNAF World, the map shows a human brain with a dead portion where the frontal lobe is. Could the bite of 83 have caused Dave to be seriously injured but still live, as seen with the ivy drip and flowers in FNAF 4, which could mean that we're playing as CC as Dave, hallucinating the animatronic characters trying to kill him while he is bedridden. This give William a reason to be angry, because of the stress and the money he's paying to keep his son alive, and commit the MCI and kill Charlotte in a drunken rage. The timeline would again then go Bite of 83, MCI 85, Charlie 87. Charlie then gives life to the wandering spirits who possesses the Withereds. William finds out about possession. Then FNAF 4 and FNAF World, where the spirits come together. And then William kills Dave, as seen in the flatline in FNAF 4, and heads to the Golden Freddy suit, where he forces him to possess it by activating a spring lock failure and promises him to put him back together. Cue Remnant Collection and Sister Location. Cassidy would then be the vengeful spirit who saw what he did, torturing William for what he did to his own son. Okay, so then that would be different. Okay, sorry, I thought you were saying that. Oh, maybe you're saying that the vengeful spirit and the one you shouldn't have killed are two different spirits. Because I know that was a thing for a while. I like the unplug thing. And actually, if you want to tie it into that specific mini game where there's all the plushes on the floor, each of them fade away one after the other. So you could imply that if he is living for much longer after the bite of 83, that each of those plushes disappearing represents one of the MCI kids being killed, which could be cool. I don't know if I feel like Charlie 87 and Dave living, because then he couldn't pull the plug on him if he's alive enough to run out the window, right? Like he can't break the window and also be so bedridden that he needs, like, that they can pull the plug on his life support. So that would be the problem I'd have with that idea. But I am a fan of him pulling the plug and him becoming the one you shouldn't have killed. So if you like that idea, watch my latest Secret of the Mimic video. me see. Yeah, so thank you, Jackbit. Quickly, I will run through a few more. Let me see. Klebo. The real reason Afton took down the classics so easily is that he used a taser and dismantled them while they were stunned. William making use of that easily exploitable weakness makes more sense to me than him just being some roided out geezer. I assume this is in Follow Me. He just comes out with a taser and takes him down. I could see that. I don't know how he does it, but that could absolutely be one of the ways. How do you think Afton takes him down?
He just kind of goes no with his arms and goes like rah, 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 and then they just kind of fall apart. I think the video game is very literal.
Yeah,
he wiggles his arm at him.
And then he does a little dance when he's taking them down. Perfect. Yep. Thank you, Klebo. I like the taser Afton. New theory. Lorenzo Raphael. Thank you very much. And also ETIHW Retlaw on X. This is a FNAF heyday theory. Okay. This is going to be a bold one. Nope. The name is Feet Theory, and my theory goes like this. The posters in the background of those minigame concepts all have the toy animatronics. I basically predicted the fact that Heyday would take place in 1985 to match the MCI happening, but it seems that Gabriel's crowd in the first minigame is gone because of Cassidy screaming. Everybody panics, but Gabriel, Jeremy, Susie, and Fritz didn't notice, along with other bullies, likely Mike Afton helping William in his murders. Please bring it up. You're my goat on Unwithered Truth. Have an amazing week and God bless you, man. Thank you very much, Lorenzo. I guess I can't really confirm or deny anything, but I will say you are correct that the toy animatronics are on the posters in the MCI minigames. So good on you for noticing that. But cool theory. I'm not going to say one way or the other if it's true or not. I don't know why it's called Feet Theory, but there you are. Jack, phone guy / Ralph used to be an employee at MCM. Yes, 100%. I think that's what Secret of the Mimic is implying with the one guy called Ralph who used to be a Springlock technician. I think that makes sense. Do you agree, Gibby?
100%, which is why the week before is not canon.
No. Yeah, fair enough. So, Master Hand, thank you, Jack. Master Hand 4444 says, I have no evidence other than the Joy of Creation arcade machine in Security Breach, but it'd be really cool if, similar to Fright's fiction, there was fanverse fiction, and the fanverse titles existed as Fazbear brands. More of a headcanon than a theory, admittedly. I'm on board for that. I think that was more than likely a mistake, or just like a fun Easter egg that some, artist threw in, but I'd be down for it. Any sort of like, this thing exists but is fiction in universe, I'm pretty much fine with, unless they're like explicitly detailed. Like I even like the Silver Eyes fiction idea. I quite like that.
I think that would have to be further along in the timeline, just because like it has so much details about Henry that and it's like Silver Eyes is currently repeating in the main story. That's so true. Unless we're saying that true. Fiona wrote it, it would be kind of interesting. I totally think the fanverse games could be real in-universe fan games inspired by Steve Snodgrass's FNAF indie games. Like, I think that would be a really cute way of bringing them in.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Let me see. We got another super chat here from Jan Verb again. Thank you very much. By the way, not really a theory, but the reason Vengel's spirit is speaking through the mediocres has to do with the fact that they don't have personality in the same way the others do. I like that. Yeah, they're kind of blank vessels. There's no other spirits in there to kind of overtake, so they're just like a blank animatronic. You can put them on. You can say the same about the nightmares or whatever, but. Yeah, I also like the ties between the mediocres and David now with Secret of the Mimic, but that's a whole 40-minute video you can watch. Demonic Cephalopod. The Golden Freddy kid from the movie is FNAF game accurate Cassidy. Same pronouns of we, us, and sometimes I when they need to refer to themselves in the singular. Yeah, I don't know when the Cassidy in the games refers to herself with we, but I do like that if Golden Duo is the case. Silver Eye is the fanfic Charlie's making up on the spot to get Lefty DCI to shut up. That's Connie said that.
She's like telling the DCI kids a story so that they
Yeah.
They stop yapping in her head.
And if they're all the DCI, then she's just like including them. She's like, okay,
Oh my god,
so
that's so funny.
we're all friends, and we're that's really funny. The DCI isn't five. This is indistinct chatter. The DCI isn't five new kids. It's Williams removing the courses of the original five kids to get the FNAF 2 restaurant closed down.
Base.
Based. I only have issue. I like it because like the kids are slumped in the same way Bonnie and Chica are slumped in the back room. So that would be kind of like visually they would fit. You know, if you were able to like drag the sprite over, they would like fit inside them. If he wants to get the place shut down, that's one way to do it. I don't know how that ties into rumors in the locality or the bloodstains, because presumably they'd be like 2-year-old corpses at that stage. But also it's like Scott might just be he might just be like, I don't know, they're dead bodies, they got blood in them. But that is one of the explanations that is pretty cool for the DCI if it's not the MCI, or if it's not a new set of murders. Thank you, Indistinct Chatter. Pizza. I thought of this randomly and it might happen. So that big box in the FNAF 6 map, what if that's where Henry is and the pizzeria isn't on the map because it's above us, maybe? Yeah, I was talking about this on a stream recently, I think with yourself and Rye Toast and... was it Hyperdroid? No, who was it? Who were we talking to about this? About the whole, like, what's underground, what's above ground, where does the... Oh, it was Underscore. That's who it was. We were talking about, is the FFPS location the Proto Freddy's, is the Fredbear's, is the, you know, how many of the locations are the same, how many of them are just like recreations of other ones. I think in that speech when Henry's talking about the maze of sounds and smells and sights that you can't see, always so close but never there, whatever, the little box in the center of the map disappears. So I think the implication is that's supposed to be the actual restaurant, but that's not real, and so then that goes away. So
I hate it so much.
Yeah, I think it's that they are underground or there is no building, but I think there is a physical building, but I think then they're brought in and brought down underneath it, and that the building on top either never opens as an actual restaurant and it's just all like kind of gameplay chicanery, or it is open, but Henry doesn't want to like risk the lives of real children again, so he just puts them all underground and makes it so they can never get there. I think either works, but I don't think it's a case of that pizzeria in the middle is like a fully open restaurant the whole time, because he says it's all about fake sounds and smells. Pig 3
Yes, it's either it's either above them or it's not real at all, and I hope it's above them.
Yeah. Pig 3 goo, pig goo. What is the give gift? What if the give gifts give life takes place the week before our shift? This is some Charlie 87 stuff. We had a whole discussion actually about this and about this minigame on Gibby's channel, so you can go back and watch the VOD of that. It was just himself and I talking about Charlie 83 versus Charlie 87, and you know, not even versus, just like kind of my opinions on Charlie 83. So if you want to hear about us talk about give gifts, give life for a long time, that's the place to do it.
Yeah, check out ABCD. It's my discussion series.
Yes. Let me see. Dog with sunglasses. The Nightmare animatronics were real physical animatronics at some point because they're in Help Wanted, an in-universe video game. So the creators must know what they look like, which wouldn't really work if they were just illusions from Nightmare Gas. This is one of the weird things of Help Wanted. Like, how did they know certain things? Like, how did they know what Ennard looked like? How do they know what Molten... You know, there's certain questions about Help Wanted, which becomes tricky to answer. Scott kind of said, like, oh, we just wanted to make it so that it was in universe and you didn't have to explain it. So it could just be a hand wave, like, oh, don't worry about it. Or it could be that they were real robots. The whole illusion to fear thing, you know, I'm remade, feels a lot more like they weren't physical. And that just in the same way that, like, because I always think about it from the point of view of, like, Mike played the indie games. You know, if he was still around and he played them, would he be like, man, they are dead on. Like, they are 100% accurate.
Mhm.
It's crazy how accurate they were.
It's so weird that my real life experience is echoed down to F10 below ground, and then F10 was able to alter these video games that I'm playing.
There you go.
Oh.
F10. Fate Fiona. The Field. Let me see. Let me find one. So I think we'll end off on this one. So let's see. Oh, actually, just quickly on that Nightmares thing. This is from The Toys Untold. Someone's trying to take my name from my April Fool's video. The nightmares were made by Fazbear Entertainment rather than Afton. There's a chance that Fazbear Entertainment created the nightmares to teach the mimic fear. After that whole ordeal, the nightmares could have been stolen by Afton. I also like graham crackers. There you go. That's just a little extra thing. Fazbear Entertainment making them to teach the mimic fear. I know there's a lot of discourse at the minute about if maybe the mimic was the subject of the nightmare experiments, which could be the case, but I would still think it was Afton that made them, personally. Hello?
But yeah, I'm sorry. Oh my God, I was thinking.
Oh yeah, it's okay.
Afton made the nightmares or made the testing chambers?
Both.
So are the nightmares gray blobs but illusion discs, or are the nightmares actually what they look
Well, so
like?
this was like the kind of last note was on, like, are they real animatronics, or because they're in the video game, like, did people know what they actually look like or not?
Or like we devised this video game character based on the sketch in this logbook we found.
Yeah. Based on one, we could kind of figure out what the rest of them must have looked like. I don't think Fazbear Entertainment would have made them. That seems... Because usually, like, Fazbear Entertainment are neglectful, or they are actively protecting their own interests. I don't know if they were in the market of creating giant underground bunkers to teach another animatronic fear. Don't know if that was in there. That's more of an Afton thing, personally. But it could be the case. I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah. So we'll end off in this one. So this is from Skylar. The interactive novels are text adventure games and are all some kind of loop, hence why they have New Game Plus exclusive endings for replaying the game. Secret of the Mimic is also one of these loops. We should have Withered Circle in here. And it's a New Game Plus and secret ending function exactly like the interactive novels have. I don't know what this is leading to, but it's definitely going somewhere. Moon.exe is straight up a text adventure game where the interactive novel's choices are formatted like the options of a text adventure, including the greater than symbol or less than symbol. And then the last main piece of evidence is page 83 of the week before and 162 of the Return to the Pit. The game crash pages. I didn't know it was page 83 of the week before. That's cool. Something I've seen no other theorists have an explanation for. I have so much to say on the topic of interactive novels that this is just scratching the surface. I think there was somebody else who
I
brought
have an
this up
explanation
recently.
for it.
Go for it.
They're not canon.
Done.
if we want to go interactive novel fiction, I'm there. The problem would be Escape the Pizzaplex.
Yeah.
Like the idea that Escape the Pizzaplex could be an in-universe book, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, my answer would just be that they're not canon.
Yeah, I think because there was another video I saw on this similar topic that they are in-universe games and that we're just reading them as books. But yeah, I think even if they are canon, I think that the game crash pages are they're like a meta thing. I don't necessarily see them as like... Yeah. Because they're to trick... Like, there's nothing in universe that Ralph or Oswald can do, if I'm correct in saying this, that causes those crashes to happen in game. Like, Ralph wouldn't try to open a door with a key that doesn't exist. So he would never, like, quote unquote reach that page. It's just us as a player doing this book. It's like a way of catching out cheaters, like, oh, I gotcha. So I mean, like if there was the Golden Freddy ending, for example, like where Ralph gets stuff into Golden Freddy and then the game crashed, I'd be like, oh, interesting, because that's something that actually happened, and then the universe broke. But I'm not sure. Darn you, unwithered capitalist. What? Where did
They're
that come
talking
from?
about how you're answering questions based on how much people donate or something, like instead of just reading the forum.
Oh, I apologize. I suppose when somebody sends a super chat, I just want to make sure that I'm, being
Yeah.
making sure I'm getting in there and appreciating that people are sending in the money. I've been going back to the Google Forms as much as possible, and like I said, in the future I will go back to the forum and do it next week. But apologies if you didn't get to your theories read out. There are a lot of them. Like there's over 250 now, so there's a lot to go through. So even if I was going through them just one by one in an order, and there's a lot of them that are kind of doubling up and stuff like that as I'm skimming through. So if you didn't get a chance to have it read, hopefully you'll get to have another chance of having it read next time. But yeah, it was just people kept sending in super chats, and I wanted to make sure I was acknowledging them and stuff. But appreciate you keeping me honest. It is a job as well at the end of the day. I can't believe the Unwithered did the DCI. Truly devastating. Hey, keep that between us. But yeah, so that was just the where were we? We were just looking at that one. I completely forgot what we were looking at. Oh, it was Skylar's one about the interactive novels. They could be, but you're right that if it's that with the Escape the Pizzaplex, it becomes a whole issue, because then we have to explain how modern game characters like Cassie and Gregory are being included in these. If the Enter the Pit game one is being included, then is that based in game on another, like on a Frights fiction story, or is it separate to itself? The way I look at the interactive novels, I know you've kind of you're just like blanketing the books are just not canon, and that's fair given how it was treated with Secret of the Mimic. The way I look at the interactive novels is they were the first time with FNAF books that game specific stuff was called out in detail, and in stories which are adaptations like the Return to the Pit, there were details changed to make them more closely align with the game's continuity, and stuff like Ralph's dialogue being 1-to-1 in both versions.
Well,
it's like if they what do you mean? Well, are they not?
No. So they, in the week before, it cuts out some of the gameplay stuff and just sort of sticks with the meat of the message. So like, there's a bunch of dots in his quote.
Yes,
so like, it's not literally 1-to-1.
Well, yeah, fair, but I mean, as in the ones that we get,
I know
the snippets that we get, like they're implying that when he keeps talking, he's going to start saying all the gameplay stuff.
Yes.
As in, there's no new lines of dialogue that we haven't heard from the game, that are getting included, or that the lines aren't lining up or whatever. Even the one that flashes back to, is it 87? That's correct. I know it could just be the author is trying to be accurate and just wanted it to be that way, and Scott didn't really care. And I think, in fairness, that one coming out around the anniversary made it feel more important than it might have if it just kind of released. If it was like the third book in that series to come out, I think we'd have a very different interpretation of the interactive novels. But it being the first, it felt very important. That being said, I think if we do ever get more interactive novels, which I would like, because I think there's a lot more to be done with them, official or otherwise, I think it would be cool to see if there's more hints at the crashes in game. I guess their argument would be that the Escape from the Pizzaplex doesn't have a crash page, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that would
Demonic
be
Cephalopod. I watched your first video months ago, so it's too late. I think that the choose your own. I think one of the other things about the choose your own adventure books is and I think a lot of people saw them as like, we got Frights, we got Tales, now we have choose your own adventure. And I sort of assumed that there would be like 12 of them over the course of the next 2 years, and it was just the next thing. And then they're like, nope, we got 3.5 and it's over. And now there's no books in sight. I think there was some sort of hoax about like Tales from the Costume Manor that's like just not a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get something eventually. I'm really excited for whatever the next that one that's like all the secrets from Freddy's past, the different items, the catalog or something.
Which got delayed, yeah.
Yeah, it got delayed. I'm like, God, how hard could it be? Please, just give me more logbook style stuff. But yeah, I know I was so excited to get so many more of the interactive novels, and I was like, we're gonna get one for FNAF 4, we're gonna get one for Sister Location, we're gonna get all this stuff, and no, it's just a handful. But Fluffy Pretzels, dude, this was amazing. Congrats on 100k. Thank you so much for being the reason I'm as much of a fan as I am today, a FNAF fan as I am today. Here's to another 100k. Thank you very much, Fluffy Pretzels, and I suppose that's a good note to leave off on. Thank you all for 100k. This is the first time I've actually gotten to address it on a stream on my own channel. So you've all been so amazing and so supportive, and I honestly cannot thank you all enough. Thank you to Gibby for always having me on streams and talking to me and putting me in videos and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm really, really excited to continue. And yeah, to another 100. Here we go.
Heck
but
yeah.
I've had a really good time. Thank you all very much. Pika Pizza in chat, how's it going? Yeah, so apologies if you didn't get your donation read. Actually, statistically, most people did not get their not their donation, their theory read, just because there were a lot. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to this next week and then the week after if I have to. You know, just keep going until we get through, and I'll respond to stuff. You know. Might have different people on, the same people on. We'll see what people's availability is like. But as always, it's been a pleasure, Gibby. Thank you very much, and thank you to everyone in the chat.
Yep, thanks for having me on. Goodbye, Galaxis World. Goodbye, Christ himself. Goodbye, BB Studios. Goodbye, Demonic Cephalopod. Goodbye, The End.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much. Is there anything you want to plug, by the way, Gibby?
Subscribe to my channel.
Yay.
40,000 of you are not subscribed to my channel.
Yeah, come on, guys. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Goodbye.